think I can hear you. Test. Test.
Yeah. Either way, there was a crazy echo on that, but it sounds like it's working.
I might take this to speak, or I don't know if I'm clear or not. Is it clear?
Clear to me.
That's what I wanted to know.
I have certain masks that I can
Yeah.
meetings otherwise. And this is one of them, ones where sound goes through better.
Okay. Yeah, I changed to this one, and it seems like it's better. So, just want to make
One
sure.
of the N95 masks. They're really true.
I haven't tried those.
Cannot breathe through those, but they're supposed to be the best. The white ones.
Yeah, I haven't
Surgical.
I haven't tried those yet.
Yeah.
They're hard to get.
Yeah.
It's running over now.
Okay. Chair, you may start.
We're ready. Okay. Yep. Good evening. This is the September, or August 31st, sorry.
September 1st.
September 1st, thank you. September 1st, 2020 Design Review Board meeting. I have a couple of comments to make prior to the start of the meeting. If you are attending virtually via Zoom, there are a few guidelines I'd like to mention. Everyone is muted and your videos are turned off by default to minimize any disruptions. If you would like to make a comment during the public hearing portions of this meeting, please raise your hand by clicking on the icon labeled Participants at the bottom of your screen and then click the button labeled Raise Hand. If you're calling into the meeting on a phone, you can raise your hand by pressing 9 on your keypad. Once the moderator calls your name, please unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone button on the bottom of your screen or by pressing 6 on your phone. Right, I'd like to start the meeting by getting up and saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. I'd first like to start by introducing our staff and board members. So I'll start to my left with our staff.
Robert Buscemi, I'm the city architect.
Cody Hendricks, planning technician.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Reed Casey, Bethany Road.
Laura Weissong, Crooked Creek.
Tim Bryan, Mayfield Road.
Beniquith Palmer, Canterbury on the Lake.
Lens, Westbrook Road.
I'm Paul Fricke, City Attorney's Office.
Right. So the first item on the agenda is I need approval of the agenda. So if somebody could make a motion. Oh, Bob, please.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make one correction. The agenda says August 4th. I'd like to change that to September 1st. So the date on the top is correct?
Thank you. I
Yes,
was like,
ma'am.
that didn't look right.
Okay.
Yes, so on the agenda, we are correcting the agenda date from August 4th to September 1st. If somebody could make a motion for the correction.
I move to change the agenda date to September.
All in
I'll second it.
favor?
Aye.
All right, if somebody could make a motion to approve now the corrected agenda.
Make a motion to approve the corrected agenda.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Just one other issue. Just want to make sure you're aware that, we put some time frames, so I'll be tracking that so that certain agenda items don't start prematurely.
thank you, I
I'll keep an
appreciate
eye on
that.
it for you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, ma'am.
So the next item is for approval of our August meeting minutes. If somebody could please make an motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the August meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Our first item is demolitions. And the first item under demolitions is 95 Green Road demo. It's to demolition an existing structure. If the applicant could please come forward.
Madam Chair? Here we go. And I would direct this to staff. I believe I saw our last member. Are they present via Zoom? I've seen it. I don't know if we just want to take care to get their votes on matters, just as we get to the substantive matters, be sure that we've got all the votes.
Yeah, so we have Jeff DeFran on Zoom, so we can get him into. Can you get him up, Bernie? Oh, I don't know if he wants to get him up, but he is on Zoom. We've confirmed that he's here.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I'm here representing the owner for 95 Green Road for the demo.
Can you please state your name and address?
My name is Gregory Bellina. I'm at 1100 Johnson Ferry Road in Atlanta.
Okay, and could you just give an explanation of the project, the reason for the demolition?
They want to remove the house to avoid any kind of liability from break-ins, any kind of hoarders, vagrants to go inside.
And do you have any idea when is anything else going to be, another structure going to be built on this property, or is there any timeline?
They're unsure at this time. As you can imagine, COVID-19's kind of put a cramp in a lot of things. So right now they're unsure of what they're going to do with the land, but they just want to take the house down, and then we'll do the landscaping on it.
Okay, and so what type of landscaping are you planning?
Just to keep the landscaping down to whatever the codes are for the township, to keep it neat and clean.
Okay,
They're going to seed it after they remove the structure.
okay, great. Any questions from additional board members?
Jeff.
Yes.
Lightly.
Age of the structure.
How old is the structure?
Yeah.
That I'm not sure of. I don't know the age of the structure itself.
What condition is it in?
It was in pretty bad condition. It was old. It was run down when the owner first took it over. And we just want to make sure that we take it down to the ground so that we don't have to, like I said, worry about vagrants, damage to it, and be an eyesore to the community.
I went by, and I don't think, Jeff, it's historical, if that's where you're thinking, and it has no redeeming value from what I saw.
That old red house looks like it's built in the 70s or 80s, doesn't it?
I'm sorry?
Looks like it's built in the 70s or 80s.
That would probably be about correct.
Okay. Do we have any pictures of the structure? I mean, usually we get pictures submitted as part of our packet. I'm not seeing that.
I asked the contractor to submit any, and I never received any pictures, but it was part of the original Green Road that they were going to tear down multiple houses and ultimately come to a development. But with 95 Green Road, I did not receive any kind of pictures of the structure.
Okay.
And that's why I went out there, because there was nothing in the package for me to know how I felt about it.
I know that we did a carcinogen test of it, and there was nothing in there. So that tells me it was built probably in the early 80s.
Yeah, I've been by this site many times, and it, quite frankly, is a little bit of an eyesore. I have no objection to this. I just want the site to be clean,
Yeah,
kept clean.
I'm familiar with it myself. I just was asking. Are there any comments from the public regarding this particular agenda item? Okay, no comments. If there's no additional questions from the board, I think somebody should make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the demo at 95 Green Road.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening now.
Can we confirm, Jeff? I think we usually look for like a raised hand or something.
Oh, I'm seeing him now.
It's very light. I don't know if we
So
can get
small.
his.
It's like a dot.
The lighting's not good.
No.
We're working on the volume, but did you cast your vote to approve that motion? Great.
Yeah, I heard him. Okay. I can hear him, kind of. Okay. All right, so we got Jeff's motion as well. Okay. All right, we are going to move on to our courtesy reviews. We have 2 items on the agenda this evening. And the first item is Red Road take that back. Nope. It is, let me make sure I've got the right one. Yep. V20-16-14355 Freemanville Road. Is that correct? That's what I have.
So we do have the Michael Gray, I believe is the present. Are you the applicant? Correct. Yes. You can go ahead and go up.
Something's confusing here. I've got
Or
different
confirm
paperwork.
for me
Mine's
which
different
one,
too.
because my 6A.
Mine's messed up.
Yeah, my paperwork isn't correct.
Mine is Red Road 6A.
Yeah.
The 14355 address is after a subdivision of that lot.
Yeah, so,
Originally it was a red
so
address.
the parent parcel is 1470 Red Road. This is currently under a minor plat subdivision, and this would be the new address for this parcel. Sorry for the confusion.
So we're doing 6A, which is
Same
Red
property.
Road.
Okay. Okay, thanks for the clarification because I was getting confused. All right, so you're asking to allow an existing accessory structure to encroach into the rear yard setback. All right.
That is correct.
All right, so if you could just explain to us what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's a barn that's been on the property for about 60 years as the estimate that we've got. It's at this point, I think it's an aesthetic element that the buyers of the property would like to keep. I think it's in line with a lot of what Milton represents and stands for, something that we value, and they'd like to not only keep but upgrade and maintain. It just happens to be in that setback, so we're just asking to be able to allow that to stay. So very nice barn, been there a long time.
Where is it on here?
You should see it in the, I guess, the northwest of the plat that you're looking at there as you held it up there. Yep, it's fully in the setback there.
I see it.
I've actually seen the barn on the property with another client who
It's in good shape.
It's a nice barn. It's right behind the Phillips Cemetery.
Yes, right, exactly. That's exactly it.
I think it would add to the feel of
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
property.
Madam Chair?
Are there any questions? Yeah, Bob?
I just want to make sure that the applicant confirms that They are in for several modifications to this existing dwelling, additions, which are under permit and construction presently. So I just want to make sure the applicant's aware that when you do this subdivision that you're not creating any non-conformity. Everything will be...
For the barn structure itself?
No, for the existing building. So when you're showing this configuration, everything you're doing will be in conformance with this setback requirements of the new lots?
Correct. Every other structure will be absolutely in accordance with...
With the new additions you're putting on?
Correct.
Okay.
100%. So there's only one existing structure that will be renovated that will completely fall in line with all the setback guidelines. We're not asking for any variances there. It's solely for this barn.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they see it being, under construction.
Thank you for clarity. Just solely for the barn is the full
Okay.
purpose of this.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Jeff, any questions? Okay. Any comments from the public on this particular case?
I have no speaker cards from the public. So.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question for the staff. Has this already been subdivided according to the plan that I have?
No, it has not. Basically, when we started a review of the plat, we asked the applicant to come in to get a variance for this existing structure. So if this gets approved, it'll go through the minor plat process. So, yes.
Because my concern is where would the access to these other two lots be?
I can answer that as well. There'll be three total lots. The one lot that would have the barn there will have a Freemanville Road address and access. The other corner lot there will share the existing driveway access on Red Road. So there'll only be one extra access.
Barn lot house would be front facing Freemanville, so it'll be tucked nicely in the back, it looks like.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you good with that, Charlie?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Since it looks like that was the last of our questions, if somebody can go ahead and make a motion, or I'm sorry, we do not do motions. We're on courtesy review. I apologize. I think the combination of the board, we are on board with your request. So our information will go to the BZA for input into their meeting. So when you go in front of them, you'll have our board's input, and we think the barn adds value to the property, so we want you to go ahead and keep that.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Public comment on that?
All right. Next item is V20-170 Thompson Road. They're asking to allow a new public street to be located 25 feet from any peripheral property line adjoining AG1 and residential zone property. If the applicant could please come forward.
Hi, I'm Kevin Reed. I'm a civil engineering consultant for the applicants, which would be the potential purchaser of the property. And that's Hyde Park Homes, Mr. Rafael Marmarchi.
Okay, can you just state your name and address, please, for the record?
I'm Kevin Reed, and my address is 100 Old Dawson Village Road in Dawsonville, Georgia.
Okay, thank you. And can you kind of give us an explanation of what you're trying to accomplish here with your request?
Yes, this is a 12-acre parcel, and it's zoned AG1. The potential purchaser and my client is proposing a 7-lot subdivision, which meets the current zoning, so it's not a zoning request. We submitted the 7-lot preliminary subdivision plan to the planning department, city, and in the course of the review, we have a small issue with site distance on Thompson Road versus this requirement for a The requirement from the city is a 50-foot setback from a peripheral property line for the street right-of-way. If we adhere to the 50-foot requirement, the sight distance would be below the city threshold for the speed limit. So for a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, the sight distance is 500-foot requirement. If we adhere to the 50 feet, we would fall below that process. We've had extensive conversations with the planning and transportation departments. We've looked at several alternatives. We reached out to the subdivision beside us, which is Champions Club Drive. They denied us access to their road. They will not work with us. We have a fair amount of frontage on our property, but the issue is a vertical curve in Thompson Road, an existing condition that makes sight visibility difficult. In the middle of the property, really there's only 2 locations for our driveway. Where we have it proposed or at the far end where there's already 2 entrances, and there's just not a safe way to put it on that end where we would have turning conflicts with those existing streets. And so after lots of conversation with the city, we asked, should we apply for a variance for sight distance? Should we apply for a variance for the street setback? And, I think there was a consensus that the sight distance is a safety concern, and we really can't play around with the safety, transportation safety. And so we felt like this was the best approach. Again, it's not a zoning issue, it's a variance. Without it, we really have no access to this property for the sellers. It just sort of forces their hand to where we got nowhere to put a safe entrance. And so it's a mild proposal for the AG1. I think AG1 requires 1 acre minimum lots. Our lots are probably going to average closer to 1.5 acres, 7 lots on 12 acres. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah, we need that broken down a little bit again. The variance on here says to allow a new public street to be located 25 feet from any peripheral.
Right.
Okay.
That's a 50% reduction.
It's 50 feet is the requirement.
50 feet is the requirement, so it's a 50% reduction. At 50 feet, the sight distance is about 475 to 80 feet, and we actually sent a surveyor to field check the sight distance.
So that's pretty close.
At 25 feet, we meet right at the minimum.
So, yeah, Bob, I was just going to ask.
So what happens is when you do a new subdivision, you want to put a road in, you have to maintain 50 feet from your adjoining adjoining lots, AG1 lots. In this case, because he's kind of got a sight distance issue, he's trying to shift the road over to be closer than the required 50 feet, thus, in a sense, allowing him to have a subdivision with a lot of lots in it. If he was to do a subdivision, a minor plat with 3 lots, he could do a driveway, and then the driveway wouldn't have that requirement. It could be placed there. It doesn't have to be with that
That's
distance.
50
So in
on
a
here.
sense, what we're doing is we're allowing a subdivision with more lots in it as a result of this variance. So I just want to make sure the board's aware of what's happening.
Yeah, I guess I have so I'm very familiar with this property in this area. I mean, I know this isn't very far from me. And so was this ever part of Champions View property, or because the road's right through there. I mean, it just seems crazy to go add another road onto Thompson, which gets busy, and I'm just trying to understand because, I'm very familiar with Champions Club Drive, so trying to get clarification. Whether this was ever intended to be part of Champions View or...
I do not believe it was.
I mean, if I can
Thanks,
give
Robin.
Basically, in fact, I think Champions View tried their best not to have this property a part of it because there's a little spike strip along the eastern property line adjacent to the right-of-way. So basically, that kept them any future phase of a subdivision fronting on Champions Club. And so, no, I don't believe this was ever part of it, nor did they ever want it to be part of it based on that spike strip that runs parallel to the street.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Let me ask my question here a minute.
Speak into the microphone, please.
It's right here. Can you hear me now? My question is, you are asking for a 25-foot variance is the maximum number of feet you want to make this driveway work. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So site distance is really tough in a growing area. He wants to develop his property. He has the right to 1 acre lots. I would be on record that I support this. It's 25 feet. Site distance is a safe thing that's new, that wasn't around 10 years ago. Bob, is that right? 10, 15 years ago?
what the requirement?
The requirement.
This was also in Fulton County's regulations, so it's more than 15 years old. So it's nothing new. It was required under Fulton County as well.
And I've been building in Fulton County for 40 years, and many times they didn't enforce those kind of things. The board will have its opinion, but for 25 feet to make this work, I would be supportive of giving you the variance to make your site distance work. That's a issue you have, that the land isn't causing the problem. You want to meet the code. Is that a hill or a curve that's causing it?
It's a hill.
So
it's a hill on the high side up near the Champions Club entrance.
And so you should have the right to use your property. You're developing at less than 1 acre lots. How many lots you going to have?
7 lots. This is not a high density subdivision.
Well, some might argue that. I wouldn't go there if I were you about density.
Okay.
That's a dangerous step. But you have the right to use your property. You've got a hardship here for sure. You're not asking for 50 or 100 feet. It's 25-foot change, and it's the safest place to put it for everybody. And so I'll let the other board members speak.
You have a comment? I'd probably add a comment that Miss Kelly Wolamu, the adjoining neighbor, seems like it's going to affect her some. I'd probably make a comment that she be on board with that.
Yeah, I wanted to see if there were any public comment on this. Yep.
There is.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
That's
So
kind of what
I'd like to hear from public comment on this. Please, yes. So if you could just step aside, sir, and then you'll get to come back and
Yeah, I
rebut.
have cards. Yes, I'm calling. Yeah, we'll call them as they go.
Okay, sounds
So
great.
the first person I have is Deborah Braun.
Is it okay to take this off while I speak, or would you
Sure,
prefer
and if
not?
you could just state your name and
Yes,
address?
yes, of course. Thank you. My name is Deborah Braun, and my address is 15805 Thompson Road. So we are the property immediately adjacent to this. So we obviously do have concerns. We've lived in Milton for 3.5 years, lived in the area, owned the Goddard School across the street for 20 years. Safety, you mentioned it as well. I mean, Thompson Road gets very busy. We have animals on our property. We have a blind horse. We have a horse trailer that we take in and out to shows and whatnot. It's certainly the reason that we bought the property that we did. Certainly realizing that development has the right to happen. My daughter, who's with me here tonight as well, in June, she actually almost became part of a fatal accident that happened on Thompson Road and Francis. somebody just whipped out of Thompson Road, head-on collision with an elderly man. I had several people visiting me that day, to be honest, that were almost part of that. So to say that it's not an unsafe area, if you've ever tried to get a horse trailer out of your driveway on that road, you're taking your life in your hands, because although we live in an equestrian community, there are neighbors who are very courteous, but there's other people that they see a horse trailer and they slam on the gas because they don't want to get behind a horse trailer. I can't imagine having any more driveways closer to us than we already do, trying to get in and out of our driveway. The construction, of course, concerns me a little bit as well, because actually the 1 acre that's directly in front of that just started getting built. And I mean, number one, I believe I read that the ordinance is that construction shouldn't start until 7:30. I try to every morning I try to go out faster to feed my animals so they can have some peace before the trees start falling. I've yet to beat them at 7 o'clock, so that's starting a little early. I also had the experience where I was riding my blind horse and it sounded like the earth shook. I jumped off, went running out. One of the gentlemen who was on the construction site ran over to my property and said, "Oh my God, is everybody okay?" Apparently a giant hardwood unexpectedly fell. The comment was, "We've never had anything like that happen." I mean, you can see the root ball right now, it's dead. So my point is just safety. I wonder, as a next door neighbor, I mean, noise, damage to my property, just the fear of my animals on top of it. And then overwhelmingly the safety of putting in another road on Thompson Road and trying to squeeze it in while we're trying to get out of driveways where that turn is there and it's busy. People speed constantly. The last 2 weeks, if you look in Milton Neighbor, between my part of Thompson Road and I guess South Thompson Road, they're taking out mailboxes every single night. I think there's been 5 reports. So I think that's something that I would really hope gets taken into consideration. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. The next speaker is Stephen Braun.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to comment on this. We've been worried about the growth going on next door. Yes, sorry.
Can you just state your address as well?
My address is 15805 Thompson Road, well over 400 feet, close to 500 feet of my property, my wife's and daughter's property, would be directly next to this property. There is a small 1 acre property that is in the front of this that it would be in between there directly at Thompson Road. We moved into Milton just from Roswell to have the small farm where this is an agricultural community, and we are opposed to this plan. They're asking for a variance to bend a rule. This is a safety thing. This is a major rule. And Thompson Road is a busy road. People do go very fast. Another possibility is we could reduce the speed limit on Thompson Road. Not suggesting that would be a good idea, but it is a possibility. This is an equestrian community. People are out here. In fact, the logo of the city is a horse. People come here for the larger rural properties. They're moving in as fast as they can and they're buying up larger rural properties. This gentleman presented a solution to build on this property, and I believe there is an ability to build on this property, just not as he has presented. It doesn't deserve 7 lots. Currently, it is a virgin wood. It is filled with deer. It has never been touched before. It's been in the family for 40 or 50 years. So this spot should not be built on as a neighborhood going up in Roswell would be. We don't want to become another Roswell that's overbuilt and has too many neighborhoods everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Ashley Nimatoli. Sorry if I butchered that.
Hello. Hi, good evening. I'm Ashley Nimatolahi. I'm at 310 Traditions Court in Alpharetta. I'm speaking on behalf of my parents. They actually own the lot 15795 Thompson Road. That is the property that is going to be largely affected by the 25-foot variance that they are requesting. My biggest concern is this is their retirement home, and my father already has a disability with his vision, so I'm very concerned about literally it's going to be at their driveway. So every time anyone wants to come and turn out and they want to turn in, it seems like it's going to be a very dangerous area for that. So that's one large concern. And second is I do have an uncle who is handicapped. So the biggest concern is just, coming in and out of that driveway with this 25-foot variance and 7 or more families living in there and having cars and coming and going. And that is a very busy road, especially with the park and everything being down the street. So it's more of a safety concern for us, and I am not for this variance at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker is Mohsen Nimatoli.
Yes, ma'am. Can I take this one off? Can I breathe a little bit? Good afternoon. My name is Mohsen Nimatoli. First, I want to apologize to my neighbor from the tree noises or whatever that was cutting. And second of all, I didn't get any notice regarding this matter, the road situation, from the city or the new neighbors that he wants to develop the 12 acres. By accident, I was driving by and I see the sign and I rushed to the city. I came here and I talked to Ms. McDonough and they showed me what's going on. I was so surprised. This is against the law first. I have to be notified for that. And second, I am not able to see from my left eyes because I cannot see it. I got injured. And I have a brother that is handicapped. He lives most of the time with me. And the situation with this, they want to have this right-of-way or variance is going to damage my property, and also it's going to be parking lot in front of my driveway every morning because the people want to go out. It's right away in front of my house. And when I came here to buy that land, they told me you have to have 50 yards from here, 75 feet from here, 75 from here, 75 from here, or 50 feet. I accepted. I didn't go for anything. I need to say I'm not agree with that. I'm not wanted to this happen, and I don't want to wait for another accident or something happen to me or my brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is, I apologize, I can't quite read the writing, but Cottonaire, Mr. or Mrs. Cottonaire.
Joe Cotnor, 15835 Thompson Road, so 2 properties down from the current variance. So I wanted to not only echo the concerns from the prior 2 speakers, as well too. I have a small farm right on the road there, and it is, for anybody that's driven down it, one of the busiest roads, flying down speed there. But I think the biggest thing, and Stephen and Debbie commented, at some point we need to make a decision on the path that we're going down with the town. Do we want to keep accepting these variances? They're there for safety reasons. They're there for aesthetics. And every time we're making exceptions around these variances, and I get people have the right to develop their land, and I don't wish to stop that whatsoever. But what we're doing is we're asking for a variance to develop the land more in reality than what it is. And so I get that, at some point there will be and there should be houses there, and everybody has the right to use that. But are we really foregoing safety? with this variance just to allow for more developments there. I mean, it's a noticeable change in the town. I mean, I didn't know if the new neighbors, they're building a new house there, were there, so I wanted to comment on that too. When you look at the plot plan, I mean, if you take 3 steps off of their new driveway, that new neighborhood driveway will be there. It is that close. 25 feet, I get it. It's only a 50% reduction. It's only a 25-foot reduction from the variance. But 25 feet's not a small amount, especially when you consider most of the cars and SUVs these days are 20 feet. So essentially, you're asking 5-foot gap from driveway to driveway with a 20-foot car. So that was my first point there. And the second point, I just wanted to call out the way that this was brought about. I do agree. I didn't see anything from the town. I didn't see anything as a direct neighbor. But I was approached by the developer or someone that represented the developer in what I felt was a pretty backwards and deceitful way to try to get me to assign an acceptance of this variance. It was originally pitched that the reason we need a new public road is for the safety of runners and walkers on Thompson Road. That was the leading argument when somebody spoke to me. I didn't understand that, obviously, because if you've ever been on Thompson Road, you're taking your life in your hand when you are running or walking on it. I walk my dogs to try to get through it, and we basically get nearly hit every time. So I didn't understand that, so I asked further questions on it. The second thing that was brought to me was they pitched that to the neighborhood behind it to get an access road on there. And they were declined. So now, again, we're coming back to a safety thing to make sure that the folks who are walking and running on Thompson Road are safe. When I again further asked questions about it, I was told it was far down the other end of Thompson Road. I'm, in fact, 2 properties away from it, not far down the other end. I had to ask multiple times and actually get a map pulled out to really isolate the property that it was. So again, it just feels not a good feeling that we didn't receive anything, I didn't notice anything, and then I'm being asked to make the safety of runners and walkers an importance thing for me, when the reality of it is it's not the safety of the runner and walkers. We want to develop more opportunities, more houses in a smaller area, and to do that, we need to take a variance down, and it's a safety thing there. So, I mean, the moral of the story is I'm obviously against the variance. I think there's probably safer ways to do this if we do want to develop the land. And like I said, that variance to me is we're foregoing safety for convenience, and in the town and where I live, I don't think that we should be doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more comment that was asked to be read into the record. Indy Bowman at 15800 Thompson Road, Milton, Georgia. She states, in order to preserve the integrity of development in Milton, by avoiding the precedent of cramping neighbors in AG1 zones to have a road close to their property. So that's all the comment cards we have in opposition.
Thank you, Robin. All right, the applicant can come back up. If you have any additional comments you'd like to make, and then I think the board will probably have some additional questions and comments as well. So.
Okay. I would just like to note that, again, it is zoned AG1. Subdivisions are allowed in that zoning by code. And there is Champions Club beside us, Little Stone Way directly across from us, both subdivisions with streets with many more homes than we were proposing. Both subdivisions have 1 acre lots. But again, we're not really here to debate the subdivision proposal. It's more for the variance. And the variance is proposed for a safety concern. And I couldn't hear real well, but I believe I heard at least one person say that the driveway was going to be right beside the road. We're 25 feet from right of way to property corner. So the center of our street will actually be 50 feet from the property corner, 50 foot from the center of it. The existing driveway next door, we would actually be 125 feet from the center of our road to the center of their existing drive, unless they propose to move it. I don't know what they're constructing out there. When we went out there, nothing was constructed, but the existing driveway, we set our road, and the existing driveway, we had 125-foot separation. So I just wanted to note that, and that we, again, we feel like this is a safety concern, and having a street with 7 lots would be better than having 5 lots with 5 new driveways, which with sight distance problems for each of those driveways, whether residential driveways are exempt or not, it's still a sight distance problem along this frontage. And so we still feel like a single street kind of brings stuff to a focal point to get in and out of traffic, and that it's the safest approach to what we're proposing. And anyway, I just wanted to note that.
I'd like to clarify some things I said earlier with Bob and the staff. One, he does have the property, any property owner, AG1, has the right to build 1 house per acre. Is that true?
That is
Well,
correct.
the zoning is 1 house per acre. However, you do have to conform and comply with all the other regulations.
Yeah, well, you got to
To
be
do a subdivision. I want to make that clear. It's not, if you have 12 acres, you don't get 12 houses. Because what happens is you have to put roads and detention ponds. So when you end up meeting all the other criteria, you could net less than 1 house per acre.
Right.
And you're not really entitled to that per se, unless you conform to all the other regulations.
I understand.
That's all.
You got to meet all the rules and regulations. And generally, you won't, on a 12 acre or 20 acre, get that yield because of the roads. But just a lot of comments were made about density and what should. And I just think it's important the public understands it is AG1. He does have the right to 1, as you say, less any lots or any streets and requirements. And that's important. Next, what could happen to this property if it's not developed this way? How many dirt roads, driveways could he put on this? What is our frontage requirement on how many feet you have to have a dirt driveway? And not a subdivision, but sell this in 4 or 5 strips of 2 acres or so. How many driveways could he have? And let me mention to everyone, that's my concern with a lot of flag lots and a lot of dirt driveways that I'm seeing in Milton that's creating more density and more traffic and more danger, is a little narrow driveway that comes off versus a subdivision drive of 7 houses that's required to meet all these codes. So Bob, my question, and just needs a short answer, is how many feet of frontage do you have here? Do you know?
260, 2 plus 50, it's about 300.
So about 300 feet?
It's only 35 feet public road requirement. He can only get 3 lots unless he goes final plat. And since he's final plat, that's where the problem comes in.
Right.
But he can, if he's doing a subdivision.
400 feet?
Have about
50 feet? No, a little more, 480?
about 540 feet.
Yeah, I thought it was more than 300.
I always got that little
500 feet. And my worry is one driveway is not so good. But where I live on Freemanville, I'm worried about a bunch of 1 3.5 acre piece of property is now being cut into 3 lots with 3 driveways. It's a little more than 3 acres, but it's going to be 3 lots and 3 driveways. So my question for staff is, how many driveways could this piece of property have in its 500 feet if it was just divvied up into 3 or 4 lots? Could each one of those have a driveway?
Well, I'd have to sit down with traffic. What we end up doing is trying to gain driveways, so transportation wouldn't allow, everybody to just have a driveway. It's a gang. Another option, just for the applicant, is a DRB review, so another option would be to go with a large lot incentive, which is what the city's really trying to achieve, which is a 3 acre minimum lot. And then that would allow him to put one driveway where he wants to place it.
Wherever he wants to place
all the
it.
lots would be minimum 3-acre zoning.
And he wouldn't have to meet the site
And then he
distance.
would not have to meet that requirement, because he'd have a driveway that can then feed multiple lots up to a limit. But it would work in this particular case, it's almost that code and those requirements are almost geared directly for this particular application. Somebody who comes in, has a really tough time trying to meet the code. The city knew that. They're trying to incentivize 3-acre minimum lots, large lot subdivisions, and it would certainly be consistent with what's around him. And then he wouldn't need a variance. I mean, we could work this out with the applicant so he doesn't need a variance. It's up to the board to come up with recommendations, but I just wanted you to know that those options exist for these
in a
applicants.
summary, so that we can all understand, he could do 3-acre lots and do 4 lots with one drive?
Yeah, you're allowed up to how many big lots? I think it's...
I think currently only the fire code allows one driveway to serve 2 lots.
Right, but with the large lot subdivision, he can go up to a maximum of, I believe, 5 lots, right?
I would have to check on the
I
ordinance.
believe it's 5 lots. You can go up to 5 lots with 3-acre lots.
He could get
It's
5
5
lots.
5 lots.
That's an alternative.
Yeah, that's what I believe it is, 5 lots.
And again, the city has all these issues to meet the goals we have, and it is lower density. It isn't necessarily all 1-acre lots everywhere. So this incentive is out there, and you still would have a driveway, but you could get 5 larger lots in there. If it is pristine trees and as beautiful as they say, that might have more value to you if you just think about that. I'm a developer, and it isn't always about maximum density. Big lots in Milton bring a lot of value, so it's just something to think about. We're not going to make the final decision. This goes to the BZA, as you know, and all of you will be together again soon to discuss this. But that's just a thought for you to take a really great piece of property and still have the driveway, but move it 25 feet away. And I would encourage all of you to maybe meet and talk. Maybe the notice wasn't done properly. I hear that. That's not a good thing. The residents all should know. That's why we post a sign. They now know. And this is going to get developed eventually one way or the other. And there's going to be a driveway. And how do you come together with some ideas that really work for everybody?
So I'd like
Yeah, I mean,
to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I would suggest if you want, we can meet between now and the BZA, and I can show you some of the options.
Well, I was going to say, now, I have discussed that option already with planning. We've talked about it, and talked with Dale Hall about that. He mentioned that in a courtesy review a couple months ago, and we've looked at it. But as I said, 4 lots at 3 acres. First, I can't speak for the construction cost and what makes sense between the seller and the purchaser if 4 lots work for him. But 4 lots, even if we could share an access, as an engineer, I feel like the driveway would have to go in the same place. I'm not willing to sacrifice the safety, even if it's not technically required to meet the same as a street. You're still putting 4 homes with visitors in a location that may not be safe.
The retention still required at that 4 lots? All this
He
other
would be
area?
able to save on curb and gutter, the road. He still has to build the driveway to fire standards as far as weight is concerned. But, I mean, the detention ponds would be relieved greatly or eliminated. They can do it per lot. They can work with our site reviewer, and usually they can even maintain some of this detention per lot. So there's quite a bit of savings cost-wise, especially if you're developing and selling them off to a builder. The initial outlay for the development would be almost minimal.
And again, based on the cost of the land and the cost of construction, that I represent, from an engineering standpoint, I'm willing to go back and talked, but we have discussed that. I don't believe the sellers would be happy with that option, but I don't speak for them. So I don't, I'm not, all I can say is if, we're willing to discuss that further, but it has been discussed and we feel like, what we have is still a pretty safe option.
I have one last question. You have an adjacent homeowner. I kind of heard that there are 3 or 4 adjacent homeowners, so there can only be one adjacent homeowner and one drive. And from your property line, you're wanting your driveway to be 25 feet off that property line, correct?
The right-of-way of the street would be 25 feet off that property line. The right-of-way of the street. The center line of the street, the right-of-way is a 50-foot right-of-way. The center line of the street would be 50 feet.
Okay, so right-of-way, so the actual center line, and that's probably, what, a 28-foot road?
26 feet, I believe.
26, so center line, so I'm getting to the neighbor, the adjacent. 13 feet,
plus
so if the center line's 50, your road is actually about 40 feet away from their property.
Yeah.
And who was the adjacent property owner? I see 3 or 4. Are you one family? Yes. Okay, so you're the adjacent. And then I heard a new house was being built. Where is that?
On that line.
It is the same owner.
The adjacent is the same as the new house that's being built. Is your driveway in?
Sorry?
Is your driveway in now?
Yes.
And did they use the existing drive or had it been moved?
Yes. Yeah.
Those just may be questions the BZA is going to want to get into. They'll delve into it a little deeper. But that distance should be really thought through on how close it is.
And again, we really can't move it any further based on the site distance.
Yeah, no, we understand that.
Yeah, that's been discussed with Sarah in the transportation department. She's the one that actually said this is the variance we needed to go for.
It's a subdivision. It's got to meet the rule. So, or get a variance.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from any of the other board members with any comments, questions.
No, I'm opposed to it for a couple of reasons. One is because I'm personally off in the Champions Club Drive pretty regularly, visiting some family over there, and I know how hard it is to get out of that driveway, looking left, looking right. You kind of got to do it twice to make sure you see any cars that are coming on Thompson Road. So I personally would have an issue with that. And the second thing is I'm hearing that, well, if it gets developed, we could end up with 4 driveways there or 3 driveways. Well, I don't like to make decisions or oppose the DOT based off of what could happen, or it could be worse. So let's go ahead and kind of go away from what the DOT has set in place. So that's just my personal thoughts about it.
Other comments from the board?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that looks like more a very heartfelt safety concern than it is just people not wanting development. And, there's a rule and there's a reg, right? So I would probably agree with Benny's comments there.
Yeah. All right. I was just looking to see if Jeff had any. And I'll make a couple of final comments myself since I'm familiar with the area. Yeah, there are huge concerns around a driveway that close to Champions Club Drive. To me, just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it is highly trafficked in that area. I just think putting in another drive next to, not very far from, an existing roadway creates just a lot of additional traffic. And if you can avoid that, I think it's better for everybody. So I frankly couldn't support that. And I think Charlie has an interesting idea there, one to definitely ponder. As far as looking at the larger lot sizes, I think that might be something to consider. But I just absolutely can't support for a whole slew of reasons I've heard from the public as well as my colleagues on the board. So
I'm going to comment on their comments. That's where I was trying to take you, that you have the right to develop it and all this. But maybe between now and BZA, you should really think about the big lots because you're hearing their thoughts and you hear the neighborhood, they don't want it. That landowner has the right to develop their land, but maybe with the fact the road's in the wrong place, as they point out with traffic, there ought to be a real thought. Talk to some realtors. Those 3 and 4 acre lots are really valuable, and it may produce the same revenue as 7 or 8 lots would produce. You're the engineer, you made that clear, but we're here to try to help you. And maybe there's another alternative. Nobody's better than Bob and Robin at figuring this out. If you all have come in and said, we want 7 lots, we want this plan, you may find in another 2 or 3 weeks you get no plan. And so you've heard them speak about their worries and the audience. When I studied this over the weekend, I came to a quick conclusion. This may be the right place for a bigger lot. They're really valuable. You can have horses on them, blah, blah, blah. And we're a horse community. This just may not be the right place for a subdivision to go. And before BZA, I would really spend time with staff here and your seller or buyer or whoever you're working for.
Yeah, again, I represent the purchaser, and it probably wouldn't work for him, but the seller, maybe it would. Maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't. But
Part of what we do is try to help everybody find a good answer before you get to BZA. And you're hearing the whole board, they're going to send that recommendation to BZA that they would turn it down.
Right.
And so I'm just saying that, get everybody happy. 3 acre lots are great, and 4 acre lots, that's why we have that code on the books. And it's really meant to help these kind of difficult situations.
Right. I have to say I agree. The larger lots, I'm a resident in the area. I know the road. I know how busy it is. There's going to be development. I'm a realtor. The larger lots are very popular.
Right.
I think it's a good compromise. It reduces the number of new residents on the street. Maybe it's a compromise everyone can live with.
And again, we'll take it back. I just we didn't feel like it was a proposal that was outrageous with 1 acre lots on 2 sides of us. So, the precedent's kind of already there, but I do understand the concern, and we'll go back and discuss it and see where we go from here.
Cody, we have additional.
If you just read over the Zoom, I believe we have some people from the community on Thompson Road that may want to speak via Zoom. I just want you to make that record.
Great. Yes, so we definitely want to hear from the folks on Zoom video.
It should be on the what you let off with the meeting, just how to raise your hand and maybe dial in 9 if you're on via phone.
All right. So let's see, if you're on Zoom, you just need to raise your hand. If you're on the phone, you need to hit 9 on your keypad. Let me see.
Okay. I was just throwing that option out there because I did see one neighbor that was in the community, and he's not raising his hand, so I guess we can move forward on with the DRB.
Okay. All right. So it looks like from the comments, it sounds like we've got, most of us are in agreement that this roadway is not the right fit for this community, for Thompson Road, and that before going to the BZA, that it might make sense for the applicant to work with the city and look at maybe larger lot size. Did I get everything? Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to our next courtesy review, and that item is V20-18. The address is 3430 Bethany Bend. They're looking to reduce the side yard setback from 25 feet to 12 feet, and also to allow any stone masonry material under the 3-4 horse fence along a public road. So if the applicant could come forward. And if you could state your name and address, that would be helpful.
Yes, pleasure to be here. My name is Stuart Reese, and I represent the client. My work address is 145 Church Street, Suite 230, Marietta, Georgia 30060. And I am the architecture firm. I'm part of the architecture firm that's working for the client that purchased this property and hopes to, in place of the existing structure, or I should say on top of the existing structure, add a second floor as well as expand the footprint. And so today we're seeking two variances. One, so we can extend the house a little bit to plan east or south, depending on which way you're looking at it, towards the neighbor. So instead of the 25-foot setback, which is currently required for the AG1 lot, instead ask for a 12-foot side setback there on the interior lot. And then the other variance we're seeking is to be able to create a very nice, well-designed fence surrounding the property that would, in addition to the three wooden members that the zoning calls for, also have an 18-inch stone base. And that's a product of the design, the overall cohesive design of the property. I'm happy to go through this, but, obviously, you guys can just ask questions or however you want to do it.
Are you the architect? I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're the architect?
Yes, sir.
He's the architect.
This is a single-family home residence? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this lot. It's south of me, or near for me. So I actually drove by there earlier today just to take another look, because I wasn't sure which property exactly was, and I wanted to make sure it was the one I thought it was. Yeah, I'm somewhat confused. So the older home that's on there, it's a front entry drive to get in. So I don't understand why you're doing this side thing. So I'm a little confused. Well, I understand frankly, when I saw the lot in the existing and then saw what kind of the house that was going on there, I was like, wow, it just seems like it can't even fit on there. But you're the architect, so that was just, that was a concern I had, because I was like trying to picture how that thing was sitting on there. So I'm still not quite clear. There's an existing driveway, so the driveway goes up to the old front of the house, correct?
That's correct.
So now it looks like the garage is going to be towards the front, or
so there's no existing garage on the house, and so one of the big priorities for the owner in doing this construction was to add a garage, and he really wanted it to be a side entry, so you're not looking at the garage doors as you're approaching the property. So partly why we're extending onto one side and not the other is there are some topographic concerns. And I did not submit this in the original submission, but could we pull up the floor plan, A101, please? Okay. While they're looking at that, one of the very odd things about this area is there are two residential properties that are currently sitting on an AG1 lot, and all the other houses around there are currently zoned for R4A. And R4A allows you to only have a 7-foot setback, and so we believe the house that we're designing functions much more in a residential setting than it does currently for the agricultural setting. And also the future land use of this area does make it seem like it's all going to be residential at some point anyway. So currently there's a driveway where you pull up and you do turn right at the edge of the driveway to go towards the house. And I included some pictures just to kind of make that clear when those come up. So adding a driveway, or sorry, adding a garage and then expanding on the driveway side was again a desire of the owner, and then also the side entry was just a concern. So you're not sitting there looking at the garage.
Looks like a rear entry. Am I looking at the side with the staircase?
That's correct. The garage is the south part of the plan.
This is a rear entry garage.
No, sir. It is a side
entry garage.
It is a side entry garage. The driveway is right there, and then that stair is connecting you to a porch on the back side of the property.
How bad is the topo on the left-hand side of the lot?
There's some pictures there that show, we just believe, based on the cost of construction, we're trying to make a very nice house.
You're just trying not to move the existing house.
I'm sorry?
You're just trying not to move the existing house, correct?
Yeah, he's really going to gut it completely, and we're refacing it all anyway, and we're growing it partially in the back and partially on the side. So I think by the time this all gets said and done, you're really looking at a new house.
So it's going to be a tear down anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tear down anyway.
Yeah. So with that said, we're really, again, we're not honoring a lot of the existing bones. It's just for him, from a construction perspective, it's a lot easier to build on the side where there's already a driveway and flat slope versus the other side, which has kind of a somewhat of a valley that you see that's immediately adjacent to some crawl space under the house. I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys can see the pictures yet.
Not yet.
Okay. So we're flying blind a little bit here. But
just curious, has anybody done a cost estimate on what he's proposing to do?
we have not sent this out for pricing yet.
Okay.
No, we have not.
Looks like you could use a little slope on this rather than building basically what looks like a drive under garage. If you pushed it over, I don't know. It's just my 2 cents. It looks like you could probably get the garage at the same level as the main level, but I don't know. I can't tell very much from the design.
The plans make it a little more clear. If you go by the view of what we're looking, in the three-dimensional views, again, the driveway, if you look at A050, that two-car garage right there, that's the main level. And that is being added onto partially the existing and partially new square footage there. And that's just expanding again towards the existing driveway, which pretty much terminates right around, the existing driveway pretty much terminates if you look at the site plan on A000. It may be a little hard to read, but there's an existing driveway there to remain, and you see how that's coming up the east side of the property. Yeah, so that picture that's there, the pictures along the right side are pictures we took at the property of the existing house. Again, there's no garage right there, but you can see that's pretty flat coming out onto the driveway. The pictures on the left side again are the pictures on the other side of the property where you see there's a fair amount of dip there. You're high, you go low by the house, you come back up.
Can't push it back at all?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Can't push it back and get some better topo on that left-hand side?
I think we could, but again, I think we were kind of hoping to keep most of the house placement because we're kind of sticking to the front right now and the left. We're just expanding to the right and the back.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were completely doing new foundations and all that, I think that's one thing, but I think we were hoping to maintain some of that. I would mention that although it's currently zoned agricultural, currently it's a non-conforming lot. In light of especially the previous discussion, this is not a full 1 acre lot. This is 0.6941 acres. So again, our desire is obviously to keep something that fits in the area, but make something nice. was sort of a Mediterranean villa feel. But also, it's not like we have a huge lot where, you can easily place it without encroaching on the setback.
So, Bob, do you have any comments on this, or?
Well, I think the applicant has stated it's an existing undersized lot at approximately 0.6 about, so it's less than an acre to begin with. And I truly believe that he could work out a solution that probably would not require a variance, or at least a minimal amount of variance. So when I look at it, I look at what's the minimum amount of relief it would take to apply relief. So if it's the garage area, then the applicant certainly could put a single story, not a two-story, but a single story garage, maybe encroaching into a portion of that setback, but it would be a lot less than the 12.
Mm-hmm.
The encroachment would be less the way he's got it drawn. And then he could certainly work with us to redesign the footprint so that the balance of the project complies within the setback areas. So I just think that when people are looking at these kinds of things, they really have to try to ask for the minimal amount of relief if that's really what it is. And normally you do put the garage on the high side of the lot. So if that's the issue, then some relief maybe should be warranted there because of topography. Mm-hmm. But I think I could work with the applicant to probably reduce a lot of this variance and within the next 2 weeks probably go in front of the BZA with somewhat of relief, but not as much as he's asking for. And we could probably get that to work. If the applicant's open for that, I think I could work with you to do that.
I think that would be my preference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, I don't know if I'd call it a hardship to have less than an acre lot with AG1 setbacks, but I don't see any stream buffers or anything like that that would make this a true hardship, in my opinion. And I would agree that to work with Bob and see if there's something else to minimize that encroachment or that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Maybe working with somebody and minimize even possibly reduce the need for a variance.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think our suggestion would be for you to come in, speak with Bob, and see what you guys can work through on trying to limit the amount of variances that you're asking for. It will make it much more palatable to the BZA for approval.
Okay. Does the fact that all the neighbors are R4A and get to go 7 feet from their setback, is that not a good argument?
Not really.
No.
Just keep in mind, these are like the only two properties on that whole street.
No, I know that area really well.
Okay.
I'm not too far away from there, so I know some folks who live in Belterre. So
okay, I just asked the question. Okay,
very familiar with the area. So yeah, and frankly, I mean, what you're doing will definitely improve it. So that's a good thing.
Right.
I know people down that road would be happy. So I think it's all good. We just need to figure out how to lessen the amount of variance.
Understood.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
There was one other variance. As well.
Yeah, for the fence.
For the fence, yeah. So I think on that, it's a lot shorter. Again, I think a lot of the zoning in this case related to the fence for AG1, 3 or 4 wooden fencing, not to exceed 60 inches, white, black, dark brown, no opaque fences, no chain link, setback a minimum of 3 feet. Those are the fencing requirements in the zoning section, 64-417. And basically, we're compliant with everything except for as from what I understand in talking with Robin, just that little horizontal piece that we're trying to show, that's on A000, where we kind of elevated what we were thinking. And then we had 2 sections in that. So basically, we're looking for just a little horizontal piece there, which we feel like would ground the fence, would contribute well to the design, the overall design of what we're trying to do at the house as well. And so that was the other variance. It would primarily be, you would still have your wood, and you would just have these cultured stone pillars and post that the wood would go between and sit upon.
So, if I understand the applicant correctly, it's not really a retaining wall. He's just building a freestanding knee wall.
That's correct.
And then he's still maintaining a 48-inch height overall. But the knee wall will take the bottom 1'6", 18 inches, and then there'll be a shorter, like a 3-board fence instead of a 4-board fence, so to speak.
Yes.
On top of it. So.
I mean, I know we have kind of fencing rules, but in this area, it's a little kind of all over the place, right? I mean, I actually think it would, contrast with the house myself. That's just my opinion. From a design perspective, there are a couple that have some fences. They're white. They're not brown. So actually, I think this would look better. Because you have a lot of older properties down that area.
Yes.
That are starting to turn over, so eventually they are probably going to change. And Belterre's got that. Their front entrance has, similar look.
Just from a design standpoint for the DRB to consider, when you say cultured stone, are you looking at the concrete, fake stone that you just apply? Or are you looking at real 4-inch, stone?
That's. I think it would be a concrete pillar that you'd have the cultured stone.
The cultured stone. So just so the board knows, in the past, the board's always asked for real stone.
Yeah.
And not the cultured stone.
Yes.
So just to remind the board that that's how the board's always ruled.
Yep, I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so it sounds like our advice is for you to work with Bob on the whole site plan variance, and then on the fencing, I think.
Public.
Pardon?
Just public.
Oh, I did not, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment for this case? Does anyone like to comment?
I do not have any public comment cards.
Okay, so we're,
Nobody else.
I don't see anyone raising. I was looking. So it looks like there is no additional comment. So so the first item is working with Bob. Second item is on the fencing. We're not opposed to it, but we do want we want real stone.
Real stone.
Is that correct, everybody?
I think more or less.
I'm sorry.
No, more or less with the fence, just see it in its totality too, because what I'm hearing is it works with the design of the home. So I want to see, later on, submit where I can see both together so I can see it. Does it actually work with the house, whatever the new design of the house becomes?
Yeah.
I don't think once they move through, they probably won't be back to us. So whatever
But it would be subject to architectural review, so I would make sure that any of the board's comments are applied.
Like during building permit.
During building permit.
Yeah, that's what I assumed you were talking about.
Bob will
If the board,
Bob will make sure it
whatever the board
meets.
comments are, I usually apply those when I do my review.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next courtesy review is V20-19. Address is 640 Doris Road.
So, Madam Chair, this is the door kennel variance, and there's a number of people that I'm assuming would want to speak, and they're being outside. So we're going to, I guess, the you're going to allow people come in. Do you want to go over that a little bit, just
Correct,
to tell
yeah.
her how
So
you want that?
since we have limited seating, we're going to let the applicant present the case, and then we're first going to go with any kind of board comments, and then go to any in support, and then finally in opposition. So just bear with staff. We're trying to get everybody in and out and get their voices heard. So.
Right. So, and I just wanted to ask the city attorney, is it something the board should set an initial time limit on and then kind of modify it, or do they just let it go? How does that work?
Your rules do not provide a limit on your public comment. If you wanted to set initial time limit requiring equivalent time for each side, you could do that by motion.
And then you can always modify it, Madam Chair, if you want to, if you see that there's still a need, but it's just the way to set it. How many cards do we have? Do you know?
I have them. We have quite a few.
We have quite a few, so.
There's quite a few.
Just to give the board an idea.
Yeah.
I have about 13 on Zoom.
Okay.
13 on Zoom.
And I have 8 in opposition, and then we have the applicant, and then probably about 4 in support.
Okay.
So we have.
Okay.
All right. So
And I'm not sure if the 13 on Zoom.
I guess I'll clarify both Bob and Robin. I think when we do like zoning and planning for planning commission, is it usually like 2 minutes?
Yeah, so traditionally, or by the rules for planning for public hearings, it's 10 minutes for each side, but it's typical that if it goes longer, that you give equal amount of time to both sides. So, yeah.
So I would, because I've been at these before, my suggestion would be to limit each person's comment to 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
And then if we go over 10, then we can vote to extend it. Is that amenable?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right.
Do you need a motion on that?
I need a motion. I need a motion by one of the board members to limit each time per person to 2 minutes.
I'll make a motion to. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, let me just make sure. I understood your comment to be a maximum of 10 minutes, maximum per person of 2 minutes at the outset.
Correct.
Okay, and that's.
I'll make a motion to. If I get this right, I'll make a motion to limit each speaker's opportunity to 2 minutes with a maximum of 10 minutes. Is that the way I heard it?
For each side.
I second that.
For each side.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
It's over there.
And did Jeff vote?
Madam Chair, we're going to set up the timer so people can see. We're going to set up the timer so people can see what time they have. Yeah.
Yep, that'd be great to set the timer. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the list of variances that are being requested and then ask the applicant to come forward. So the first variance is to request a variance of 140 feet to allow the minimum setback for a pen for dogs to be 60 feet from the northern property line instead of the required 200 feet. Second is to request a variance of 150 feet to allow the minimum setback for a pen for dogs to be 50 feet from the eastern property line instead of the required 200 feet. Third variance requested, to request a variance of 75 feet to allow the minimum setback for a pen for dogs to be 125 feet from the southern property line instead of the required 200 feet. And the fourth variance is to request a variance of 120 feet to allow the minimum setback for a pen for dogs to be 80 feet from the western property line instead of the required 200 feet. All right, so if we could have the applicant come forward and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Beard. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Rough House Kennel and Daycare. We are seeking the 4 variances that you just listed. I'll not recite them, preservation of time. So the four variances being sought are from a carryover from Fulton County ordinance, which Milton adopted when it was incorporated. There is a 200-foot setback requirement along the boundary of the property line. So what we are seeking to do is, in some part, to make it compliant with existing fences, but also there are proposed new fences. So we want to bring it in compliance all the way around with old fences that have been there for 20 plus years, as well as proposed new fences. So the first variance for the 60 feet, for the variance of 140 feet, that is for a fence that has been on the site. This subject property has been a kennel since 1998. My clients, the applicant, have owned it since December, and so this existing fence was prior to their ownership. So they've repaired that old fence, but at the same time, it is not compliant with the code. So the first variance being sought is to make the existing fence compliant. The second variance is for a proposed new fence located on the eastern side of the subject property. If you look at the site plan, that is towards Birmingham Highway. So that is away from, it is not towards existing residential structure. That is primarily towards the highway.
Is that a new fence or an existing fence?
I'm sorry?
Is that a new fence or
that is a new fence.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first one is to make an old fence compliant. The second one is for a proposed new fence. The third variance is also for a proposed new fence. So the fence is shown on the site plan, I guess from your perspective, it kind of goes towards Birmingham Highway and goes down slightly. So they're essentially rounding out with a new fence on that side of the property towards Birmingham Highway. But in doing so, that just because of the subject property, the size of it, it encroaches in that 200-foot setback requirement. And lastly, there is a proposed new fence on the western side that is an existing fence. This application has been before you back in January. At the time, that application was withdrawn. It was our understanding that these would not qualify as a run, so the application was withdrawn, but we have been in touch with staff as well as the city attorney, and these do qualify as runs as defined by the code. So that's why we're before you tonight to seek these variances. Kind of a short note, I know that these variances in this application has garnered a lot of attention, one side or the other, including an anti-litem notice that the city has received. And so just to kind of iterate the applicant's stance is we have been in discussion with the opposition's attorney. We've been trying to work out conditions to cure their concerns. We will continue to be so moving forward. Hopefully we can reasonably address these concerns. Obviously, sound being an issue with a dog kennel, but we are working with them. But I know the city has received that, so I wanted to point that out, that we have been working with the opposition's attorney and will continue to do so. With some of their concerns, the neighbor to the west used to be all part of the same property. That property was subdivided in 2013, and so that created some of the issues that we're dealing with, particularly to the west side of the property. The house has been there. The neighbor lives in since 1970, so it was in existence before the kennel was built, and all used to be the same owner. So a lot of the concerns stem from just the subdivision and the effect thereafter. I know there are a lot of people here tonight, some of which will not get an opportunity to speak, just given the time constraints and also COVID procedures. I would like the opportunity for at least those to be recognized that are here in support. Again, some very much wish to speak and some certainly won't have the time. And we understand that, but I would at least like those to be recognized if any way possible. I don't know with COVID procedures how you want to accomplish that.
We're going to give each side time,
Sure.
And then we as a board can extend that by a vote. So that's what we're going to start with. Each side gets 10 minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, and we understand that. Like I said, I know there's time constraints. We have a lot of people that are here in support. I don't know, we at least like them to be visualized in some way. And I'm not trying to grandstand or anything, but we do have a lot of people that have come out that are interested in this application or in support of it.
Sure.
And I don't want it to be misrepresented in terms of the number of people that are allowed to speak, given the time constraints.
It'll be even between, I mean, that's the process we use, so it will be even on both sides.
And certainly I'm happy to answer any questions, but if you want to speak to other speakers.
I have just kind of a couple of clarification points. So for me, I just need to clarify. So the name on this application says Crabapple Beds and Bones, but I see Rough House on other documents, so I'm a little confused as what the company name is, number one.
It is Rough House Kennel and Daycare. It was Rough House Kennel and Daycare purchased Beds and Bones. That was the kennel that was in existence up until December. So Rough House Kennel and Daycare, that is the entity that owns that name.
Okay, so that's who's making that's the applicant.
Rough House Kennel and Daycare is the applicant.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that.
Correct.
And a second question I have, because I've saw pictures and actually have been by this property. My understanding, did the applicant take out trees and did they have permission?
Okay, and that was one issue that came up when this application came forward in January. Georgia Power owns an easement along the northern boundary of the subject property. And through modifications of lines, and candidly, I feel like that's a cause for a lot of the disruption from that point. As they went through and cleared a lot of trees along the northern boundary of that property line. I don't know if those are the trees you're referring to, but
yeah, there were several. So I just was trying to clarify whether there was if they submitted to have those trees taken, or you're saying Georgia Power took them out?
There are two instances. So like I said, Georgia Power took trees along the northern property boundary between the subject property and the kennel, the subdivision to the north. Okay. So there was a row of trees through there that Georgia Power removed trees. The applicant has also submitted a tree removal for some dead trees that is on file with the planning department for removal of some trees. And like I said, I'm not sure which trees you're referring to that were removed.
Okay. Well, I'm just, any trees that they took out, did they get approval for is what I'm asking.
And we do have a request for a tree removal.
Okay, but it looks like the trees were already removed. Is that correct? I'm just trying to clarify.
There have been some trees that are removed. Like I said, I know Georgia Power did some, and I know the applicant removes dead trees. And like I said, we submitted an application to have those trees removed.
Okay.
So there are a lot of pending applications with staff.
All right. And did the applicant put up fencing prior to having approval?
Again, this goes back to our discussion back in January. So we thought these did not qualify as a run. And so the fences were erected. Okay. Code enforcement got involved. We've been in touch with the city attorney. These do qualify as a run.
Okay. Can you clarify which ones were put up on this document so we know which ones they are?
Sure. So if you look at the western portion of the subject property, there's a small fence located on that side on the site plan.
Okay.
That is a new fence that has been erected since the applicant purchased the property.
Okay. And that's the only one?
There is a proposed new fence on the eastern side of the property. That is what they're proposing to have on the property.
But it has not been erected yet?
That is my understanding. I want to clarify that. Okay, no, that has not been constructed yet.
Okay. All right.
We do have an application for a fence permit.
Okay.
But it hinges on the variance application.
Okay.
And again, the property, the fence located on the northern side has been there. Okay. But to repair that, we also have an application for that as well. Just a lot of housekeeping with a lot of existing problems, but also business model looking forward. So it's kind of a hybrid of the two issues.
All right. Those were my questions. Any other questions from the board? Comments?
I just wanted to clarify. So you said that they purchased it or changed ownership in December 2019.
Correct. Yeah, they took ownership.
Okay, and how long have the discussions been had with all of the parties? Because you said that you've been working through a remedy for a while.
Correct.
So
And
what's
so-
a while?
Sure. So there were a number of property owners that were interested, candidly in opposition to the applications that was submitted in January. So we had discussions with them, and candidly, after the application was withdrawn, there was a lull with COVID, and so we really did not have discussions until probably about a month ago.
Okay.
I guess when this application was submitted, it kind of kickstarted those discussions. But we have been in discussions with the city attorney for months, even prior to that.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, that's what I want to know.
All right. Is the board ready for public comment?
Good to go.
All right.
With his request, maybe we might just visually ask those that support you to stand up so we have an idea.
That's a good idea.
Well, the way we did it, just so the board knows, is we filled the room up with the opposition first.
Oh, got it.
Then we'll do the opposition folks that are on Zoom, and then some people will have to leave so we can get more people in, and then the in favor of is ready to step in.
Well, that helps me because I was torn with, how many. So this is all opposition.
That's correct.
Okay, and then later you bring in his supporters.
That's correct.
Okay.
Great. All right, so we're going to start the clock at 10. And the first person up, each person you'll have 2 minutes, and we'll let you know.
And Robin will do the call.
Yep. So if you, the first person, once Robin calls your name, when you come up, if you can just state your address, that'll help as well.
Then I'll start. I let them do their name. And just FYI, a technical problem, I can't figure out how to make that 10, so I'll make sure that
We'll just keep going with
Yeah, we'll just keep going around.
It'll work.
We do that. Okay, so the first...
Could I make one comment
Sure.
for the audience? Everyone wrote great letters, and the staff got those to us all day. So we have read all of your letters, and very good letters. And so I would acknowledge we've all read those letters.
Yes. Okay. The first speaker is Grace Dunn.
Good evening. My name is Grace Dunn, and I live at 630 Doris Road, the adjacent property on the west side of the subject property. I've lived here for over 5 years and have enjoyed 4+ years of peaceful and quiet enjoyment of my property. The previous operator of the subject property, Crabapple Bed and Bones, operated a harmonious, tranquil, respectable, and profitable business for 20 years with no complaints from me or the nearby residents. I originally purchased my property knowing that Crabapple Bed and Bones was located in an AG1 zone, with full understanding that there is a minimum 200-foot setback between any outdoor dog run or pen and my property line. The AG1 zoning ensured that I would not have any noise or visual disturbance from additional outdoor constructed enclosures from the subject property. In December, when the new operator purchased Crabapple Bed and Bones and renamed it Rough House, they immediately and unlawfully erected a dog run pen on the west side of the building, now 80 feet from my property, in full violation of the AG1 setback. The operator did this without any permit or variance, which was required by law. They have continued to use the pen for 9 months in full violation. I have had many, many calls, Zoom meetings, conference calls, letters, and emails to the City of Milton with no resolution to this issue. I've had to call the police department for excessive noise disturbance, and the police in his report stated he observed excessive barking, both heard inside the building and outside the building. Also, it is important to note that there are 80+ dogs allowed in that building. That's 8,500 square feet and 1.5 acres. This unlawful infraction has prevented and interfered with my tax-paying constitutional rights to a quiet and peaceful enjoyment of my property. Additionally, the physical and emotional stress caused by dogs barking 7 days a week, each and every morning, starting at 7 a.m., as they let the dogs out into the pen, less than 120 feet from my bedroom window, has caused emotional, mental health, and stress and lack of sleep. Let me play you a short 30-second audio of what I deal with day in and day out.
So it's been 2 minutes, so do you want?
This
Fine.
Okay.
Sorry, shaking. This dog pen is used throughout the day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm having to put my bark collars on my animals to prevent them from barking, white noise machines in the bedrooms of my children to sleep past the noise, and much, much more, which I do not have time to do due to my time constraints. I've always wondered why an entrepreneur and experienced business owner would buy a piece of property and a house their business, and then after purchasing the property, move in, decide the property is not big enough for their business. Rough House cannot seek to vary conditions and restrictions that run with the land and exist under and according to the recorded plat, including easements, setbacks, use restrictions, and zoning restrictions. Now they are asking for your permission to expand the four walls of their building outward at the unrecoverable cost of the tax-paying constitutional rights to the calm, pleasant, relaxing enjoyment and financial prosperity of my property. In my opinion, this operator has made a serious business mistake. The City of Milton should not penalize the adjacent residents and surrounding property owners due to the Rough House owners' short-sightedness in purchasing a property that could not house their business. I'm extremely concerned with the financial impact this variance will have on my property and others nearby, as well as the social, health, safety, and aesthetic impact that this variance will have to one of the most prominent intersections in the City of Milton. You cannot and should not ethically grant favor at any level of one property owner's financial return over the long-time investment of the adjacent and surrounding properties. With all this being said, I believe the proposed variance is not feasible, will have substantial negative impact to the surrounding area, and should be denied any further recommendations by the board. Thank you so much for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Barbara Ballou.
I have a prepared statement that this committee does not have, but I'd like to submit it because I won't be able to read the entire thing to you today. But my name is Barbara Bowyer. I live at 615 Red Maple Lane, and I have three sort of key points I want to address with this committee. This is not just a fence that you guys are being asked to approve today. The fencing is an extension of the kennel, and I am vehemently opposed to this variance restriction. I request that you deny the design submitted. It does not take into consideration the surroundings as proposed, has no element of thoughtfulness for the properties. It scales inappropriate for the size and location of the property, and the applicant has provided no consideration for the topography. The original plans of this property and the drainage and grading systems of this property had restrictions attached to it. I have the original plans that are still in force today. They are not permitted. The waste is supposed to be indoors, and there's also no outdoor dog runs. That is clearly stated on that. Now they're asking for a remedy to correct that situation. And I agree with my neighbor saying that this is a business decision they're asking you to ratify for them. I want to be clear that my property is experiencing runoff from their property, and I know their attorney stood up here and just told you that they've been working with the homeowners. They've never talked to me, not once. I think Sunday was the first time I saw them in my neighborhood, putting letters in our mailbox. So I hired an attorney at my own considerable expense. I was here for the first variance. My attorney reached out to them to try to resolve issues. Nothing. They basically told us to go pound sand. So again, I'm saying this current grading and draining plan does not consider. They're asking you to put a fence in place, but that's not going to resolve, or it's not going to be fit for purpose of the way the grading is designed today. And then second, I want to point out that this parcel is absolutely too small to build what they've proposed. The economic hardship that they cite is self-imposed. And our Milton City Code, section 641883, expressly states the situation on which the applicant is claiming hardship cannot be caused by the applicant themselves. This applicant is an established business owner within the City of Milton. They previously operated the business on New Providence Road. They moved to the subject property that we're talking about today. They entered into an arm's-length transaction, voluntary, conscious, unrelated third party, with the opportunity to conduct full due diligence. They made a poor business decision, and this is asking you to ratify that poor business decision. Let's be clear, the economics here are that they want to be able to operate this business in the way they want to, which was not the intended use of that property. And I certainly don't want to burden this committee with what the intended use is. I'll save that for another discussion. But simply we want the peaceful enjoyment of our homes. And it's clear based on the facts that they've given no considerament to the detriment their design has on the surrounding properties and the public at large. Lastly, I just want to say the proposed structure will not enhance our community as a whole. The property is on the corner of Birmingham Highway and Doris Road, and Birmingham Highway is a city-designated gateway, a key corridor of entrance to the city, as I think this city itself has determined and publicly stated in their comprehensive plan. The plan says that you will respect the corridor's rural character and channel any non-residential growth into smaller nodes separated by wide open spaces. The structure as designed would be directly on the frontage of Birmingham Highway, clearly visible from the roadway, and is within existing zoning setback restrictions. Those setbacks exist as a matter of public policy for safety, environmental, privacy reasons. These setbacks also exist so that our homes are not crowded by adjacent structures. The structure as it's designed is inherently problematic because of the size and scale. And the property owner acquired this business with that full knowledge. I'll stop there, but I would like to submit my entire statement to the committee for consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jim Breen.
Good evening. I'm Jim Breen. I live with my wife Ruth, who's also here at 13510 Lexington Plantation Lane, one street over from Red Maple, where my neighbors have spoke from so far, and 2 streets over from the subject property. My wife and I built our house 20 years ago, and the facility was there. It was an internally operated overnight facility for dogs. My understanding is he kept about 30 in there. They didn't run around outside. They walked them one at a time by a dog walker, an individual. Once the applicant acquired this property back in December, she immediately changed the use and turned the outside into a dog circus and had to stop because it was in violation of the law, but only temporarily. But we got a good taste of what we got coming. And you don't have to live right next door to hear these dogs barking. That's why we're here and a lot of other folks from the surrounding neighborhood. So the applicant plans on getting, well, she got the agricultural department, she said she's going to have more than 80 animals in this facility running around back in the backyard. They've got air horns, they scream at them, and it's only going to get worse. But this is a design review board. And I know you all are here reviewing a fence. How hard can that be? It's not a fence. It's a kennel run barrier. And I think I would ask that you just put yourself in our position. From an aesthetic perspective, what does a kennel run barrier look like with numerous dogs running day in and day out outside, barking and yelling, jumping in swimming pools, little kiddie pools, doggy Olympic facilities and things like that? Now, we're all dog lovers. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong. But the applicant bought this property and decided she was going to cram a business on there.
Madam Chair.
Pardon me?
Excuse me. The 10 minutes that the board has set has elapsed. If you want to consider extending the time, you're certainly able to.
So
you may want to take into consideration the amount of time.
I'd make a motion to give opposition another 5 minutes.
5 minutes. You agree, everyone? So,
motion
and
second.
We've read all your letters.
I need a motion.
I'm sorry.
Somebody can make, Charlie, you want to make a motion?
I made a motion to allow another 5 minutes.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye. And I'll try to use as little of that as possible. And I realize, Mr. Roberts, you've read the letters, and I appreciate that. But it's also important, I don't know if it's clear from the letters, that the applicant believes that this should be a citywide policy, that the kennel setbacks for agricultural property is an old, pre-Milton, anachronistic, antiquated rule. And ladies, it's just not. We bought our property, we've been paying taxes for over 20 years, and we were protected by those setbacks. We were protected by the rules that say you can't have a kennel operated outside within 100 and 200 feet of the line in the other buildings. And that is essential to us. And they want to make, and they're writing to the other kennel owners and saying, we all have to get behind this. We should have doggies running outside of everybody's kennels. And so as you look at this architecturally, please think of the aesthetics of this fence, they call it, really being a kennel barrier. And what's that going to look like from Birmingham Highway, from our homes, and everywhere else in town where they think that this ought to be done based upon the letters they've written to other kennel owners. So this is the Design Review Board, but we respectfully request that you recommend denial of this based upon a design perspective, considering what it is, or at a minimum, let the board know that this is not the kind of thing that's designed for a kennel that's going to block it from people seeing it and having their use of their property and their comfortable use of their property and their investment protected. What are you going to tell a real estate agent when you list your house and they're looking at this? What are you going to say if you're trying to if you're a developer and you're looking for property? You're not going to run in here and just think you're going to just violate all the zoning laws and the people that have lived there for 20 years can just take a hike. This is not a reasonable request. It's not a reasonable use. We respectfully request that you recommend denial of the application at this level. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Gordon Waters.
Just note for anyone that's looking, the timer started running down from 10 instead of 5, so there's about 3 minutes left on the extended time.
Gordon Waters, 13530 Lexington Plantation Lane. First, I am a big dog lover. I have a big dog, and unfortunately, I live 2 streets over at the very end, so I'm probably a couple hundred yards as the crow flies. And when we get up in the morning, I can hear air horns. I can hear dogs barking, which never happened. We've lived in the house for about 5 or 6 years. When we moved in, we actually thought it was a very well-run facility that was there. The dogs were, what our understanding was, is they were there for overnight use or overnight stay. There was a very nice lady that walked one single dog every day. I still see her every once in a while on Doris Road. Now when you ride by, it's dogs gone wild. It's a lot different than it used to be. The other thing that kind of struck me tonight was the attorney that was speaking on their behalf, because sometimes there's gray area and sometimes they're in the black or sometimes they're in the white. And when you come in and you remove trees right out the gate, you remove fences or add fences right out the gate. And just so you know, the fence that was removed, because that's on a dangerous road, there was a really bad car wreck that knocked the fence down. That was the part that was fixed up, because one of our friends, a kid, almost died flipping a car there, running into a tree in another vehicle. So it's already an unsafe location, and it's not even so much that, maybe you put in a roundabout at some point down the road. It's more about the fact that that's not what it was. And if zoning allows for it, then great. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm all for zoning. I do commercial, I do residential, but I don't see this as being something that, unless it clearly allows for it, to provide that variance in such a nice location, with Doris Road probably being the highlight road of Milton.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have quite a few cards that I believe everybody, the next probably 6 or 7, wrote the same statement on the back of their card. And I can just confirm that those people do not want to speak. They just wanted to have the cards read into the record. I have Richard Patterson, Chris Breen, Rebecca Collins.
Chris Breen, this doesn't, one of my own
Okay, so I'll just call each one individually, and then if you do not want to speak, I can read what is written on the back. So some actually, some of the cards did not indicate that they didn't want to speak, and some did. So it's
No, there's about a minute left.
yeah. The next person is Richard Patterson. Okay, did you want to speak, or did you want me to read just the item in?
The only thing I would say,
Well, if you want to speak, sir, you have to go up there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like I got about 55 seconds. My name is Rick Patterson, and I am not a resident of Milton, but I spend a lot of time at the home of the adjacent property owner. So I am there Sunday mornings out on her beautiful deck. She has this beautiful pool she just built within 80 feet of this dog pen that was put in illegally back in December. So we've been living with this dog pen and barking for a long, long time. And yes, it's been really been a S show, to be honest with you. So my take on all this has always been, because I've been an entrepreneur and a business owner in my life, I bought businesses, sold businesses. I can't for the life of me understand why a business owner would buy a property that doesn't house their business, period, and then subject you guys to change the law for her financial gain at the financial loss of the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have just 9 seconds left, and then I have still quite a few cards left.
Can I say something here? This is the biggest turnout we've seen in a year and a half. And as impressive as all your words are in your letters, your passion to show up and be here means a lot. So if anybody, I would just ask, if anybody, because we can't do all of this all night, anybody that has something different to say or additional information we'd like to hear as we go through this. And we want to give you the time to do that if it's additional. If it's the same facts, we hear you, we read, you're passionate about it. And clearly it's disturbing they cut the trees down, they put up fences. And it's disturbing to me that 9 months the city has not shut all this down and gotten the fences that were put up improperly taken down. So there are 3 or 4 issues here, but I assure you, we're all neighbors, we're all hearing you, and none of us would want to hear what the lady played in our backyards either. So how many times you say it over tonight doesn't move us any more than we're moved by seeing you all here. Now, we'll do whatever the chairman wants to do.
Okay, so I think.
Well,
Madam Chair, I apologize, City Manager. You're on a 2-minute delay with people outside that are that also want a chance to speak.
Right.
So they have no idea what was just said, and they're not going to know for another 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So if one person raises their hand in here, that's not an indication that if you want to hear everybody, that says that they have additional information. One person is probably not indicative of what you're truly going to get a response from in about now a minute and 30 seconds. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Right. So, well, we have to, in order to make each side fair, what has to happen is we either need to give additional time here, or we go ahead and bring the other side in and then come back. So, but that's hard to do right now, the way things are set up. So it's either we give more time and let a couple more people speak, and then we give them the same time.
I have a question. How will, if these folks leave and the others come in, how will these folks know our comments?
I think they can hear.
There's a record. Go to the overflow room,
right,
where these people are, and hear what they're saying, just on a 2-minute delay.
Right.
Okay, so
We've taken care of all the audio issues over there. You can hear just fine.
So they're hearing what we're
Yep,
saying.
they are.
And they will hear it. They will hear it when they go over there.
That is correct.
Okay. I'd make another motion to give them another 3 minutes to keep talking.
I second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, have 3.
Okay. The next. Wait.
Is that the next person?
Additional information.
The next person is Chris Breen.
Just to be clear, we asked for additional
anything
information
different,
if someone's
okay.
got something different to say.
Madam Chair, just a point of order here. there is a process you're going to have to go through here. If you want Robin to go out of order, you'll have to tell her to do so, and you can say, okay, if you want to ask anybody that's in her pile that doesn't want to speak, they can do that, but you can't. My advice to you is to not just start pointing out in the audience and saying who wants to speak next.
Right.
You're
Well,
Mr. Breen?
I don't think Robin did that. So basically, Robin's running who's on point. So I think those in the audience need to make a pact with their pals to determine who's going to speak next, and then I can ask Robin and the board if we want to make a change. So let's go with that for now.
Okay. So Mr. Breen, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Chris Breen, and my family and I live at 630 Red Maple Lane. I'm a City of Milton taxpayer. My family and I were drawn to Milton due to the AG1 zoning protections that afford us the peaceful enjoyment of our homes. 1 acre lots, top schools in the state, and one of the most prominent neighborhoods in the state of Georgia. Tonight, those protections are being challenged by a business owner whom intends to offend the spirit of those ordinances, which exist to protect the very reason my family bought into the City of Milton way of life. Tonight, the applicant intends to secure this board's recommendation to the City of Milton Board of Zoning and Appeals to be afforded exceptions to those AG1 protections my family and neighbors rely on to protect our peaceful enjoyment and substantial investments. The applicant purchased a property servicing an overnight dog boarding facility for close to 20 years. The previous owner was successful and his business flourished. The surrounding neighbors took no issue because he cared for his customers' dogs outdoors on a leash, one at a time, and the size of the building limited the capacity to less than 30 dogs at a time. The applicant purchased this facility with the intent to change the usage of the property without conducting the due diligence necessary, which would have concluded that this would create a hardship of their own doing. Tonight, this board will need to decide to make that recommendation to the BZA or not. I plead with the members of the DRB to consider that this is not an assessment of the aesthetics of a fence within the fence, but an assessment to recommend the expansion of kennel walls to encroach on surrounding neighbor setbacks, a business which is already in violation of those setbacks. I plead with the members of this board to picture your family home being encroached upon by a business owner whose intent is to change the original intent of a 20-year-old business and causing a substantial detriment to your family's way of life and the value of your property. Picture yourself in a position of selling that home and potential buyers turning away due to a new doggy daycare next door cycling in and out 80-plus dogs a day and day out. Picture the doggy daycare yard.
1 minute left.
I'm sorry?
1 minute left for the 3 additional.
Just imagine yourselves living next door to the amount of noise if this is allowed to move forward. I have small children. At 7 a.m. every morning, they're woken up. Just picture that. And then picture yourselves trying to sell your home with this next door. That's all. Can I submit this?
Okay, the next card is Rebecca Collins. She's indicated on her card she did not want to speak, but I'll read what she wrote.
I do just want to say something. They had asked if there was anything different, and so I just like.
So you do want to speak?
Just to the one.
Okay. So there is 24 seconds left. Okay.
My name is Rebecca Collins. I live at 645 Red Maple. We've been in these discussions since December, January timeframe, and we also have not been approached for solutions this whole time. We've been in conversations with the city, et cetera. The one thing that I want to implore on you, Chris hit on it lightly, 80-plus dogs in that side yard barking. Imagine what Grace played for you. Now multiply it by 30 times the volume. Ongoing, every day. Every dog in her kennel is promised 5 to 7 outdoor playtimes a day. She has been given an 80 or above unlimited dog license. Imagine the volume that is incessant and ongoing. and has broken us emotionally. You can see all of us. This has broken us as a community. And we implore on you that this is not a fence variance. This is changing our way of life.
You may consider more time or end it there.
I have 5 more cards, just FYI, in my pile. And that doesn't include anything.
I think we're up to 18 minutes total.
I think we have to move on to.
I think we need to let opposition come in and get their side of the story. Board. Yep, I think I'm seeing head nods. So.
Chair, we do have members, I believe, on Zoom that may or may not want to participate. If you could just, again, read in if you wish to participate via Zoom, just to raise your hand. I just want to get these people, if they wish to speak, to have their voices heard, if that can be an option.
Need a motion for that?
They're not entertaining anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they're opposition now in a minute, if they're supporters, yes.
Okay.
So in the meantime, if what's been stated here is they're not going to entertain any more comments against, then you would move to the other side of this and make sure we do the equal amount of time.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. If they decide they want to entertain the others thereafter, they can, and then just provide the equal amount of time to those in favor.
Correct.
Right. So why don't we do this? Yeah, I would agree. So we bring in opposition or the affirmative, let them get their 18 minutes, and then let's see who's left on Zoom on both sides, and then we can address the Zoom folks. Is that okay? I think everybody's
okay.
okay.
We still do have 5 people here who have submitted cards and, that are actually physically here, not on Zoom, that wanted to speak, I believe, against. Is that correct, Robert?
Yes, I have 5 cards, yes. So
We have expended the time from 10 to 18 minutes, right? Does the other side deserve 18 minutes?
Yes, and let me say, as a practical matter, if you're intending to allow additional, we're going to have to keep switching back and forth. I would say pick your time limit and as much as possible stick with that so we don't have to go back and forth and back and
Well, right.
roll them
There's
in
a
and out.
logistics issue here. So we either have to address all the in-person against, and then do everybody else.
Well, we also have then our discussion time to add to the 18 minutes of the other side before we get to the board's discussion time.
Correct.
I'm sorry. You will have discussion time after their 18 minutes.
I understand that. We have that on top of the 18.
Right, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So where are we? Do we want to extend and get everybody else on the...
You got to make a motion to give 25 to each side.
25 to each side? Okay, so motion on the floor, 25 to each side. Somebody second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Okay. So we have seven additional minutes
yeah,
are
7
added to the...
Okay, yeah. Okay, the next speaker card is David Dunn. He's not here? He had to leave, okay. Kara Jackson? Kara Jackson?
We need to check over there.
I think that's what...
No, she doesn't want to speak.
She left too? Okay.
She doesn't want to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to read into the record what you stated? Okay. It says, I do not believe. I believe the proposed spot variance, Kara Jackson, 12060 Crabapple Lake Drive, Roswell, Georgia. I believe the proposed spot variance and design is not feasible for the subject property. It will have a substantially negative impact to the nearby surrounding area and should, I'm sorry, I forgot that. I can't do 2 things at one time. To the surrounding area and should be denied any further recommendations by this board. It will also lower property values for the surrounding residents. No one wants to hear barking dogs right next to their house. I'm not opposed to the rough house business, but this is not the proper location for making legal and neighborly reasons. Okay, the next card is Tracy Curtis. Okay. Do you want me?
Basically, I said the same thing as Kara, so that's fine.
I'm sorry.
You don't need to read it.
Okay. Rebecca Sylvie.
Yes.
Okay, you want to speak? Yeah, just, you have to go up there, yeah.
Hi. This is real quick. My name is Rebecca Sylvie, 601 Doris Road. Everything you've already heard, everything and all the passion, that's true. But what I will say and add to that is how far-reaching it is. Because I'm across the street on Doris Road and down. And every morning, my dogs hear the dogs first thing in the morning. The barking starts. It goes on and on and on. Everyone goes crazy. It's never any different. Every morning, the exact same time. And we bought our homes on that road so that we could enjoy the quiet, the peace and quiet of being in the country. So that's halfway down Doris Road. And it's that far-reaching that we can hear it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, the next card is Taylor Kiley.
No, there's a minute.
There'll be another
there's-
5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and 13 seconds.
Hi, y'all. I'm Taylor Kiley. I live on 630 Doris Road. I just want to say I've lived in Manhattan for 3 years, and I've been having to come back and live with my mom for quarantine. And now I'm living back in Milton. It's always been our safe haven, that house, right next to the Rough House. Having to wake up at 7 a.m. to dogs barking every day, where I'm used to listening to ambulances, taxis. The noise in Manhattan is just absurd, but there's nothing like the noise that I've heard from these dogs. And I've seen the effects on my mother and my siblings, and it's even my own dogs. The stress that it causes them, it's unbearable. And I just wanted to kind of paint a picture of how different it is from coming to Milton, where you think it's a safe, quiet, nice town, from living in the city, and how opposite it actually has felt moving back.
Okay, I do not have any further speaker cards, so is there anybody on Zoom or?
I don't see any hands raised right now.
Then we should obviously adjust the time for the affirmative to whatever time we're at right now.
Yep.
Let's see, we're
If
at
there are no more.
21 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, 21.
It'd be 21 minutes.
Yep. Okay.
That's what I had.
Okay.
Get to make a motion.
What was the total time, Robin, that?
I think
It's 21 minutes.
21.
So 21 minutes was the against.
Yes.
Yep. So let's just, we need a motion for 21 for the affirmative.
Make a motion to change the time from 25 minutes to 21 minutes for the affirmative.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
So
indication on Zoom
the
yet?
opposition, not including the applicant, the opposition spoke 21 minutes. So anybody in favor of the petition will have 21 minutes.
Any indication on Zoom yet? Nothing new?
I don't have any hands raised or nothing on Zoom.
Madam Chair, I suggest we take a couple minutes to switch. If you'll
Okay.
make a motion to adjourn
So
for,
we'll just take a
if
quick
you'll
break
adjourn for 5
for
minutes.
about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, probably 10, logistics.
You make a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn for 5 minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Although, please drink water. Thirst. I'm like getting hungry.
I think we probably should have moved the guy who's waiting for the last one.
Thank you.
We were headed for a problem.
heard. No, I've heard that. I actually have.
So that's the only reason I just wanted, I don't want anyone to be able to later criticize how we ran this. I think we're considering all the other nonsense that's going on with technology and everything else. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. No, we want to make sure everything goes good.
We're going to bring the other group in now.
We don't need legal issues.
I think
I'm good, thank you.
Yes, I know. My usual.
I'm not so used to that stuff.
Yeah.
I live in Sand Springs, but they're keeping the dog in the day. Like only first time is
Right. I think that's, yeah, I would agree with that. Well, and that's kind of what we did on the other one.
We did pretty close, people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to do that. So, yeah, I think that's good.
Smart.
We have one board member we're waiting on.
Jackson Point.
still watching, or do I have his picture up there, or is he no longer on there? Since he's going to have to vote. And Jackie's on.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Note for the minutes that he's still.
Yeah.
Are we, we're not.
I don't know. Just somebody keeping time.
Are we ready yet on time? I'm going to.
Wait for Robin. I feel like you're good to go.
Okay. I want to wait for Robin.
Yeah. You call it back to order, and then we're.
Okay, we're ready. All right, I will. Let me go ahead and bring our session back into order here. We are continuing our discussion of item V20-19, 640 Doris Road. We are going to give 21 minutes to the affirmative side for this particular variance, or variances, excuse me. So Robin will call each of the folks up, and if you will state your address before speaking, that would be appreciated. And before I do that, I think also if we can have those folks who live in the immediate vicinity speak first. If there's others who don't live in Milton but want to speak, that's fine. But we want to hear from people that are close to the project. That's the most important, are people that live in the community near this particular facility.
If we need that, we're going to need to have them coordinate with Robin kind of ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah.
If
Okay.
I don't know.
So I'll call them out, and then they can let me know whether they're residents or not. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So the first person is Chris Kamek.
Hello, I'm Chris Kamak. I'm the owner of Rough House. My wife and I own it. I don't want to take up a lot of time there's a lot of people here who want to talk on our behalf, but there's a couple of things that were said that was just not accurate that I wanted to point out. I know you took offense with the trees. I wanted to give some backstory there. A dead tree fell over against another tree. I asked my lawn guy to come take it out, and if he saw any other dead trees, to take them out as well. Well, then, the city told us we needed a permit for that, so they sent an arborist out. They confirmed, yes, all the trees were dead, and they gave us a permit. Probably the biggest thing I want to address is the noise. You kept hearing all the noise. Well, when you're inside the kennel, you don't hear it. The noise doesn't come from the fences. The noise, it happens at 7 because the dogs are hungry. They're ready to go to the bathroom. They're inside barking. And we've learned that it's when doors are opened that everyone's hearing that outside. It echoes. Yes, I admit that. And that was just brought to our attention a couple of weeks ago. We had a contractor come out immediately. We're installing some inside sound blocking barriers, so we hope to have that in place in 2 weeks, and we can see how well it worked. But we don't want to be a noisy kennel. We want to get along with our neighbors. We want to be friends with everyone, our customers, our clients, our guests, our neighbors. We don't want to be noisy. No one told us that you could hear it from the outside until 2 weeks ago, and we're trying to address it. Some other things, there would never be 85 dogs outside. We limit our groups to 5 or 6 at a time. They're constantly rotating. We have people out there watching, and if there is a noisy dog, they come in. So we're doing our best to keep this quiet so that we're not disturbing our neighbors. We think we have a plan in place, and we're implementing it right now. And if someone comes to us after that and says, Chris, it's still kind of noisy, I'm going to keep doing things. But the noises don't come from outside because they're having fun. They're running around. They're going to the bathroom. They're sniffing things. And that's just, that's not where these people's complaints lie. It's from the inside that we're finding a way to address. But I know there's a lot of other people that want to talk, and I can come back up here and answer questions directly if you want to, but I want to get to all the people behind me. Thank you.
The next speaker is Chris Kamek. Okay. I'm sorry. It's getting late. Susan. Okay. Natalie Shelton.
I'm here, but I don't live at home.
Okay, we'll come back to you if we have enough time. Chris Elliott. Okay. Carol Adams. If you can say your name and address.
Carol Adams, 4668 Glen Forest Drive, Northeast Roswell, Georgia. Okay.
Yeah, I think we want to have Milton folks first.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. If we could,
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to note too, there are addresses that are within the city of Roswell this Roswell address, postal address that are within the city limit. So we just can't think. Yeah. Okay.
We are not in the city limits.
We'll call you
So
back.
we'll sit.
Okay.
Also, we were trying to do the immediate adjacent within, say, 500 yards of the property first.
Right.
And then work our way further out.
Yep.
Okay. The next speaker is Hannah Smith. Okay.
She works in North House.
Okay. Mark Rump.
That's not here. He read a statement.
Okay.
He lives in Mountain.
Okay. You want me to read okay, I will read it. My family has trusted Rough House with the care of our pets since before the Kameks purchased the business. The comfort that is brought to our family by knowing that our family members are always lovingly cared for by the Kameks and our friends who work at Rough House is priceless. It allows me to travel for work knowing that my pets are kept in a safe and healthy environment. Okay. Maureen Schmidt.
I live 3 miles from there.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Chris Rodriguez. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to read this.
I can say it out loud.
Are you within the city of? Okay. We'll come back to you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Sandy Krauser. Yeah, you can go in Freemanville. Yeah, I can start with you.
Okay, my name is Sandy Krauser. My address is 13180 Freemanville Road, Milton. I'm going to keep this brief. I'm a resident of Milton and a loyal customer of the Rough House. I have the pleasure of sending my current 3 dogs, Piper, Samson, and Knox, to Rough House for boarding and for daycare. In the past, I've had 2 other dogs, Lucky and Moose, who also enjoyed their time at Rough House. I don't come to you as a dog owner or a customer. I come to you today because I am a very active Milton resident. In the past, I served as the PTA president at Milton High School, and I continue to serve in various leadership positions at Milton. Rough House is an invaluable contributor to our community by providing financial and psychological support to our entire high school population. Their support of multiple associations at the school, and I'm going to name every organization at Milton High School that they financially contribute to. They contribute to football, band, theater, chorus, softball, baseball, PTO, circ, and I bet I'm missing some. Because of their contributions, Our students have the opportunity to pursue their passions with absolute freedom. It is the support of businesses like the Rough House that have propelled Milton High School to the status that we currently hold statewide. I would also like to add that the CAMEX are active Rotary members and participate and support the endless philanthropical organizations promoted through Rotary. Susan is the current president of the Milton Rotary chapter and working toward the goal of increasing membership, which only serves to unite this community and make our communities stronger. The people behind me and the people who couldn't be here tonight, and in addition to the people that were here but had to leave, thank Susan and Chris Kamek for everything they do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker. I'm sorry. And the next speaker is Lori Moore on Doris Road.
I'm Laurie Moore. I live at 450 Doris Road. I've been a customer of the original Rough House, Beds and Bones, and the current Rough House for over 17 years. I am currently a resident of Doris Road and have lived there for over 7 years. Through this change, I have not heard any change in sound levels. I've not noticed any disruption of the aesthetics. If anything, the new owners have come in, upgraded the exterior of the grounds with additional landscaping and the facility exterior as well. Sorry, I just did this while I was in there. In reviewing of the proposed structures, I really don't see that these fences will be taking away of the character of Doris. They fit in perfectly with 90% of the fencing that's already on our road. And again, the changes I have seen have only been total improvements and just don't feel threatened by what they're proposing. Unfortunately, we didn't have sound for the first few speakers, so I'm not exactly sure how a fence affects drainage. Also, the original trees that kind of started the whole situation had been removed because of Georgia Power coming in on property that is between and I think this might have been mentioned earlier, again, I didn't hear. So that was not on the Rough House property. Then it did at the time. Also, they did notice that they did have dead, unhealthy trees on the property, and the city approved to have those removed. When the kennel was acquired, when it was Beds and Bones, they were able to house 200 dogs. When the Camex purchased it, they reduced that number to 100 by taking kennels out and limiting what they would have on the property. Again, there was a poster, I believe, that was shown that we didn't have the opportunity to see, but from a glimpse of as we saw it pass by outside, the pictures do not seem to be from the current facility. It looks like it was from the facility that was on New Providence. So, you know, in fairness, it might be interesting. It might be a good point to clarify if those are accurate for the current situation. The owners of Rough House have reached out to all of the homeowners on Doris Road with a personal phone number for us to call with any concerns, opening their doors for any tour, or be able to say, you know, to explain to me exactly what you're wanting to propose to change, giving their own personal phone number. They, just as people, they are a huge asset to the community. They provide very good services to our local pet owners, treat our pets like family members when we're gone, posting pictures of our pets, texting us if there's concerns. You really feel like you're leaving it with a family member when you're out of town. But also the owners are so committed to the community. Currently, they just finished up a donation to some of the local nonprofits for food items, for school items. They have given so much to the local schools and also being active with the Rotary clubs. So I do feel that I really hope that wide eyes or looked at what has been said previously. And again, we may not have heard everything that was said, but just appreciate us being able to say everything.
Thank you. Okay, the remainder of the cards are non-Milton residents. It's hard for me to, they don't look very close to the location, so do you want me
to just go in order?
Go through them.
Can we speak if we didn't do a card, Milton?
I'm sorry?
Can we speak if we did a card and didn't get to do a card?
You can fill out a card. I think she's going to go in the order that they're received, but
yeah.
fill out a card.
Okay.
Well,
okay. So in the meantime, I'll go ahead and, or do you want me to?
I would let her, if they're Milton residents,
I
have.
used to live on Doris Road for 15 years, but just moved recently, so you have my new address on there.
It's whatever was written.
I want to just move, so I was there.
Well, currently, so. The current resident.
How much time is left?
We have about
11 minutes.
11 and a half, 11 minutes.
Madam Chair, is to go with the cards that you have. If you have a lot of them 21 minutes, allow them to speak for 20 minutes based on the cards that you have. Instead of people scrambling now to start filling out the information. These are the people that registered to speak. We never set a rule ahead of time that people had to be neighbors or in the city of Milton to do so. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, we can hear the additional cards. Okay, so you want me to continue on with these cards? Yeah, let's outside of continue with the city? ones you have, and then if there's
Okay.
time,
Oh,
we'll
here we
do
go.
the
Okay.
others.
Steve was saying to just take the cards we had already. And stop using those.
Okay.
That you already have.
Okay, that's what I just said.
Right.
Okay, I'm just confirming that. Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Natalie Shelton. So we have a little over 11 minutes left for everybody.
Hello, my name is Natalie Shelton. I live at 4237 Glen Forest Way in Roswell. And I am a client of Rough House, and I figured I would come this evening to show some support, say a few nice things, talk to you about how important Rough House is to me. And I have to say that I've been very surprised to hear how heated this conversation has been. There are a few things that I've heard, and I fully admit I wasn't able to hear well in the other room. So I'm hearing a lot of things being tossed around. But there are a few things that I say I would refute, having been a customer. I've never seen the dogs just running around. I find the facility to be very clean. When I drop my dogs off and I pick my dogs up, I don't see the other dogs, hear the other dogs, or smell the other dogs. And I have to say, I've been to a number of other dog daycares since I've been a dog owner, and I do see a difference in how they manage and they run their facility. I've had experiences where my dogs have come home with heat stroke because they haven't been given enough water during the day. I've had experiences where the dogs have come home filthy, and I've had to bathe them before I could even let them in my house. Every time I bring my dogs there, I leave them there clean and happy and well-watered and well-fed. I get them back clean and happy and well-watered and well-fed. So I think there is a lot of attention paid to how the animals are treated, which is really important. And I do think that they pay a lot of attention to the condition of the facility, which I think is important to the neighborhood and the neighbors. My understanding is that the facility has been a dog daycare for quite some time. So something that I do struggle to understand is why now it's a problem to have dogs there, to have dogs barking, when it has never been a problem before. I don't understand what the issue is, what the problem is. I mean, I would suggest that the committee think about actually visiting the facility if you have not already, perhaps you have, and make an assessment for yourself, because up until this point I've been very impressed with everything that I've seen there. What I'd like to say on a personal note is that Rough House is not only important and good for my dogs, but it is important and it is good for my family. I'm a divorced mom of two, raising my kids for the most part on my own. It's a pretty significant financial investment for me to send the dogs to daycare on a regular basis. But it is worth it to me because the dogs are well cared for, The children are well cared for, especially now with all of us working from home, myself, the children. I don't think that I could manage everything that is on my plate right now if I didn't have Russ House to rely on. And when this pandemic does settle down and I start traveling for work again, I rely on them to take care of my dogs when I'm out of town. So at the heart of it, I'm sure I'm not the only family that would be significantly impacted by them not being there. And so, I really just wanted to come and show them support, but I hope that I help them succeed in their endeavor to make their facility everything it can be. So thank you for hearing me.
Okay, the next speaker, Chris Elliott. Yeah.
Good evening. My name's Chris Elliott. I live at 610 Redfern Court in Roswell. My wife Nancy is here with me this evening. We've been customers of Bed and Bones when it first started, and now Rough House since Susan and her family bought it. We're now on our 4th generation dog. And I'm not going to talk about the legalities of fences. Just as a construction guy, I'm really upset about what I hear about people fussing about a 65-foot move of a fence and talking about building a kennel, because that is not what's happened. But I don't want to talk about that. It's up to lawyers and others to talk about that. I just want to talk about what Rough House has done for us. We're both retired, senior citizens. I have age-related needs. My wife is a cancer survivor. The plague has been a real thing for us. It has significantly changed our lives. So I now want to talk about the really important member of our family who fits in this. His name is Murphy. He's a 4-year-old golden retriever. He came to live with us 18 months ago as a rescue. Murphy is a delight, but he's very enthusiastic. And my geriatric needs and my wife's need to keep out of danger has really given us a hard time. He visited at Bed and Bones when they were there, and since Susan's there, she has been an absolute lifesaver for us. We take him 3 mornings a week. As I'm turning down Doris Road, he's talking in my ear. He wants to go and see his friend Jon Snow and Gunnar and his friends. He wants to see Freya. And he is excited. He goes there. He doesn't bark. He doesn't make a fuss. Hannah or Sammy greet him when he arrives. There's not a big noise and fuss. So I heard somewhere on the speaker somebody talk about air horns. That's nonsense. It just doesn't happen. These dogs are enthusiastic. They're having a good time. And I must be honest, Rough House has been a lifesaver for us. This is personal. This is nothing about variances. But you need to understand, as the lady before said so eloquently, this for our family is a lifesaver. You could not exercise Murphy on a lead. We would be in serious problems with Murphy if he didn't go to Rough House 3 mornings a week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we have about just under 7 minutes left. The next speaker is Carol Adams.
There are some very wonderful things about Rough House, that some of them that other people have already mentioned. The facilities are so clean always. I've never been in there when they haven't been clean. The dogs are happy. The staff is organized. One time when I boarded my dogs, I made a mistake and didn't bring enough food. And Susan went out and bought food, the exact same food that I had taken, so that my dogs' stomachs wouldn't get upset or whatever, which was wonderful. When I used to board my dogs before I found Rough House, and I traveled, I always had a lot of anxiety about my dogs, how they were doing, what they were doing. But once I found Rough House, I do not worry about my dogs at all. I know they're well taken care of and they're happy, very happy. The other thing is that I used to work about a half a mile from the Rough House at Mill Springs Academy, and I would go do some agility in Rough House's facility, fenced-in yard, and never heard barking dogs either then. So I just totally support Rough House.
Okay, so we have just over 5 minutes left, and we have Hannah Smith.
Hi, my name is Hannah Smith, and I have worked for Susan at the Rough House for 5 years now, and I am currently a kennel manager. I'm just here to address you guys with some of the misconceptions that the opposers have been telling you. Number one, at our old facility, Susan never had any problems with any of our neighbors. We had a guy that lived behind us. His property was 50 feet from our fence line where dogs were constantly outside playing, and he never once complained. He never had any issues with us. He would even share the vegetables from his garden with Susan. I want to also talk about why we expanded. The opposers are saying that we fill our facility to the max and that we have too many dogs there for the size of the facility. That is not the case. The whole reason that Susan and Chris purchased the newer facility is because our clientele was growing so much. She wanted to have enough space to properly house these dogs. At our new facility, the old owners were putting 200 dogs in that facility that can actually only take 125. Susan maxes out at 100 for a reason. She wants to be conscientious of the neighbors around her. I also want to talk about how when we let these dogs outside, they are in small controlled groups. You are never having 80 plus dogs out running wild. It's 6 to 8 dogs at one time. That's it. One of our opposers was saying we have them out 5 to 7 times a day. We have them out playing in group, yes. Not necessarily outside. We do have indoor play yards, so all that barking that they're talking about is nonsense. I also want to talk about the fence variance. We are asking for these fences to give these dogs proper playtime. That fence is not going to affect the noise. It's not going to change anything. We are still going to have someone out there monitoring them the entire time. The opposers are talking about how it's going to affect the price of their homes and the home value. They knew that when they bought those houses. That kennel has been there for over 20 years. So I just would really like for you guys to consider the Rough House when you're looking into this, into the actual great care that we give those dogs. Because I am a kennel manager and I'm back there every day and I see how it's run, and it's not run the way it's being portrayed to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen Schmidt. So we just have just over 3 minutes left for the entire support.
Okay, so my name's Maureen Schmidt. I live at 630 Stillhouse Lane in Alpharetta, Georgia. I won't repeat some of the things you've already heard of, but I do agree with almost everything everyone's said so far as it portrays to me. I have 2 dogs. I have an 8-pound dog and a 50-pound dog, and they're both poodles. I take both of my dogs to Rough House, and they are very well cared for. They play together. They're in the groups. They come home super excited. Knowing that I can trust an 8-pound little dog in their care with all those other big dogs really says something about me, because I am very much a helicopter mom with my dogs. So it's very clean. I was a patron before with the last owner of. And this is much cleaner. It's bigger. We're just so thrilled, and would be devastated if you didn't choose their way. Thanks.
Okay, the next card is wanted me to read into the record. Chris Rodriguez, 1642 Brookmere Way, Cumming, Georgia, 30040. Says, it is very important that my dog have exercise and be socialized among others. The next comment card is from Courtney Wagner. Okay.
I'm Courtney Wagoner, 3085 Burlingame Drive, Roswell, Georgia. I'm going to be quick. I could say a lot tonight with support for Rough House, Susan and Chris, but I think one of the points that I'd love to make tonight is I have a Brittany, a bird dog, a Brittany Spaniel, and loves to run, loves to hunt, wants to be on the land. And the thought of her being on a leash, I think she didn't even know what a leash feels like. And she wouldn't be able to do what she loves to do at Rough House. So that is just my biggest thing, just to allow her to be able to have space to run and trees to look at and to play with her friends. And yeah, I'm going to leave time for other people. Thank y'all.
Okay, the next comment comes from Nicole Presley, so we have about 1.5 minutes left.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Nicole Presley. I'm a 15-year resident of Doris Road. We just moved about a year ago, not even quite a year ago. I'm saddened that we are here at this point, having to come defend not only a wonderful business, but also a wonderful family. We've been going to Rough House for several years. I have 3 rescues, Roscoe, Cooper, and Jolene, that are extremely happy dogs because of this facility. One time when I didn't make a reservation on time, we had a friend watch our dogs. One got out and ran away. Susan saw him on the side of the road, opened up her car, and he jumped in. He would never do that for anybody else. She calls and said, I will take him at my house, keep him at my house till you get home. Don't worry about your vacation. He's rescued and very timid. He didn't trust anybody but her. Yes, we love our dogs, and sometimes we all love our dogs more than our children. So trusting them with Rough House is important to all of us here tonight. It is the most organized kennel we have ever used since having dogs of the last 30 years. Always professional, always clean. They treat our dogs like their own children, telling us daily who their friends are, who they played with, who their new friends are. It puts us to ease knowing that they care so deeply for our pets that when I have to travel for work, I don't have to worry about it. She will text us if anything goes wrong, which never does. They rotate those dogs out like a well-oiled machine. My husband and I laugh about it because when you go by there from 1 to 3, you wouldn't even know there was a dog in there because it's nap time. The previous kennel, I think someone said, had 200 kennels, and one day when I was in there, they were moving kennels, and I asked Susan why. She said, we strive for quality, not quantity. There's never more than 6 dogs out there at a time. You guys should all drive by there and see. I know I've seen you over in that neighborhood before, Mr. Casey, because I've talked to you about our house.
1 minute is up.
Can I say one more sentence? The fact that she knowingly bought a house next to a kennel is concerning to me when she's making such a big deal about this, and was also a former client of Rough House for several years and now has a big issue with this. That's all I have to say.
Robin, are there any more?
Yes, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more cards.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, it's now up to the board whether or not you want to extend the time or if you want to end it at 21 minutes. Is that correct?
That is correct. If you did, you would need to allow additional time for the opposition as well. Same amount of time.
I see the board has decided we're not. We're going to open board discussion.
Madam Chair, if I could just make one more recommendation to the board. In the spirit of equality and transparency, we've been kind of jockeying this around. You've got those in favor in here and those against in the other, both in the other building. I'd like to find a way if we can. We've got roughly 30 non-city officials in here for this hearing. If we could get them to self-select about 15 of them to remain, and we could have them self-select about 15 to come in, so they can be your conversation, deliberation. Our attorney advised me it would probably be best to have people who spoke this way without any questions, but that is entirely up to the board. You may also want to consider those who live closest, or you can let them self-select themselves. I'd like to see if we can get a fair mix of people in here for your conversations that are going to be done.
So board members, I mean, I'm okay with that process. I mean, do we want any, stipulations around it? Do we want residents to be, I don't know if we can get 15 on both.
I think Steve's comment about self-select is the right answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea to have both sides have representatives. And so I would make a motion to allow each side to self-select who they want to be in the chambers here with us as we have our discussion, and limit that to 15 from each side.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we can just take a few minutes.
Yeah, so I'm going to take 5 minutes to allow for the 15 from each side to get here. Reconvene.
Sir?
You just said well. There you go.
I wondered how we had so many police, the city manager. I looked around and said, what's going to happen tonight? And this was a heavy, when I first got here, I saw Steve and Bob.
So I need to ask the applicant to step forward. Okay. I'm reconvening the meeting now, so I need the applicant to step forward. Sorry about that.
Good evening. Thank you again for the time.
So I think now we're going to open it up to board discussion. So I'm going to ask the board if they have any questions. Yeah, and Cody, too, if Jeff has any questions, can you just let me know? Because my box got real small. I can't see. Okay, thank you, Jeff. So who would like to start with questions? Anyone?
I would. What happens if the variance is rejected? If the variance doesn't get approved, what happens?
Legally, I don't know if there would be an appeal. I can't comment on that. I haven't had that discussion with the client. But from a business model perspective, from the city attorney can certainly comment on that in terms of the existing fence. I mean, even with respect to it.
Well, I guess I'm asking in reference to when people usually ask for a variance is because of a hardship. So if you were to say if they didn't have a variance, the doors would be shut. I haven't heard that, so that's why I asked the question, what happens if they don't get the variance?
Potentially. I mean, their business model is based on the dogs being let outside for limited periods of time, as you've heard from the other speakers.
Okay.
A dog being kept inside for long periods of time without the ability to go outside is harmful to the dogs. Obviously, the noise and, alternative methods of controlling sound are an issue, but other kennels currently have similar setups where they have lawns outside. They're on very similarly situated properties. And so, from a business model perspective, I don't know if it can be maintained in terms of what they do. Other kennels may keep their dogs inside for long periods of time. But in terms of the applicant's business model, I don't think it would be effective moving forward without the runs.
Okay, and I only had 3 questions. That was one. The second one was I heard that the owners have been dealing with this for a while with the residents and have made concessions, if you will, to appease those that are not in favor. So what were some of those concessions that were made?
Absolutely. And so I won't go into it too much detail, but in terms of, we had discussions in January. And like I said, everything kind of went quiet until about March when we started speaking with the city attorney and the application was filed. And we've been in touch with Mrs. Dunn's counsel for about a month or so, trying to work out some conditions. Some of the things that have been discussed would be a higher fence, a soundproof fence located on that western wall, which directly affects her. That is something that's being considered. And the applicant as well as Ms. Dunn have had communications separately. That is something that's being considered, and we're still trying to work that out and see if we can put soundproofing fencing located adjacent to her. Vegetables inside. I just received the plans today, but they've had an engineer come out and show plans of what that entails. So basically, it's just inside the kennel. It's like a room inside a room. So outside doors, any sound would be limited to inside the building. So you would only have essentially a closet-sized space that would allow sound out, whereas the internal door would keep sound in. And that's, as the applicant spoke directly about, a lot of that sound comes from inside. Just the resonance of all the dogs inside resonating outside once the door's open. And so that is one thing that they're working to get that done in the next couple of weeks. They have engineers. I have received the plans today. I've seen those. So they are working on resolving that issue, and that's largely what's being considered. In terms of landscaping, that is something that's been discussed again on that western fence. There's been there's discussions regarding what type of shrub, what type of planting could be placed there. Evergreens, given the terrain and the light that would hit where that was being proposed. Effectively, the trees probably would not survive, and some of the discussions would be replanting, and it wouldn't protect against sound or visibility. So we proposed additional shrubs located closer to where the fence is actually at, that would grow fairly tall and would actually have a scent to help the neighbors. Those are some of the things that have been discussed.
Okay, and kind of a tie-in to that, those discussions, who were they had with? Was there a community meeting, if you will? Was it some type of memo or paper memo that was given out? Like, how were the plans communicated to the residents?
Okay, so it's twofold. And again, since these discussions have taken place, I've had direct communications with her attorney, and it's largely been between us.
So that one resident, her attorney, and you.
Correct.
That's the only time
Yeah, and the neighbors were notified. I think a letter was circulated this weekend as well to the neighbors directly from the applicant. And so trying to have, until I heard from Ms. Dunn's attorney, that's really the only thing we've heard in terms of opposition. There may be opposition, but clearly there is. But in terms of communications that I've had, those have come through Ms. Dunn's attorney. Ms. Dunleavy represented another property owner to the north, and I've not heard from her. We have not had any type of dialogue, either from me or from her, since, I guess, January, when the last application was withdrawn.
Okay, and then my last one, and I'll be done. I wanted to hear that and understand that, because I asked it to find out how much community involvement has really taken place, because it sounds like people only started to come up with a plan once everybody lawyered up a little bit. And so I was kind of curious, what kind of, did the owners decide to say, okay, we're going to have an open house and bring everybody over here and let's walk and talk and let's look face to face sometimes and just let's talk about it first. And that's what I was just kind of curious to see, if those kind of things, before we get to this, kind of thing. So that's all I had, just getting some background.
Other questions, comments from the board or staff? No.
I don't have any questions. I'm ready for discussion when we're all through with our questions.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Yeah, I think you covered all my questions, so I think we can go ahead and start discussion. Charlie, do you want to start?
Not really, but I will. Again, I said this early, this is the biggest and most passionate turnout for both sides we've seen in a year and a half. So we're very sensitive to all of you, pro and con, about how you feel. I think the board's worked real hard to make sure all of you had equal time and fair time, and we've read all your letters today. I was shocked all day with the number of letters and the depth of your letters and the passion in your letters. So I really took that into consideration. We're a board of 7 people that have all been appointed, and we're all residents, and we all have a lot of experience in construction, development, real estate. So we are a very experienced board. And for me, I'm speaking only for my one position. I'm sensitive, and have been for the last couple of years, about non-conforming uses and commercial in residential areas that was there many years ago. And it's what made us a rural county. You got a nursery, you've got a car repair place, you've got rough house, you've got things that were here 20 or 30 years ago. They're now somewhat, and I'm not going to get into the legality of this, so Bob and lawyers and city managers don't jump up and beat me here. But my concern is and I voiced this on numerous other occasions. I'm a developer. I believe in precedent, and what a board does this night or 6 months ago sets a precedent for the future. I am a homeowner. I have 18 acres. I am here for the peace and quiet, and I am here for Milton to stay Milton, even though Milton is growing because it's such a great place to be. So I'm going to come down against this variance and against any increase pretty much of any non-conforming older commercial uses. And Rough House worked beautifully for 20 years. I would ask it to stay the same and keep doing what it's done for 20 years. Has the right to do that. This new owner. This isn't about the owner or the owner's family. This certainly isn't about the quality of work they're doing. This isn't about the dogs having fun. This is about the expansion of a commercial use in a residential area that I don't support in any way, any increasing the activities or the use of that land. If it wasn't fenced for 20 years and it was green space, then I don't think it should increase. And I would ask the BZA to vote no on this proposal, leaving Rough House as it was. When the purchaser, again, I'm a real estate person and I'm a property owner. We own buildings, and when we buy them, we know we can't go in and immediately change things without going through this process. This buyer, owner, bought Rough House as what it was, and is now trying to be changed. That's unfair to the homeowners. It doesn't matter whether those homeowners live there 1 year or 10 years. It's a change of a non-conforming use, an old Fulton County zoning, and an old business that deserves all the right to stay there, but only as it is today. So my request would be that BZA turns this down.
Yeah, so I agree with Charlie. I'm having a hard time seeing a hardship here. You know, a lot of times when we see these variances, requests for variances, or for us to review these things, it's because we're 5 feet over a property line for a pool. This isn't 145 feet or 140, 150. This is a major request here. Looks like they've got a great business going, very happy customers. You know, the neighbors have their opinions, but increasing this for what I can't really see any hardship at all, I would be against this.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with the board as well on this. I'm in the same boat as Charlie and about variances, that you really, if there's no hardship, we shouldn't be changing things. And it's very clear, you know, I pulled out the codes, and you know, it's very specific. 200 feet to 200 feet. And I believe, and since I've been on this board, and I've been on this board for a while, that we really try and not change variances. It really has to be a hardship, and there is no hardship here. And as far as non-conforming uses, very much agree. There was some crazy things done by Fulton County, and you know, they don't make sense, but we've got to stick with what we have, and we shouldn't be changing those. And I will make a recommendation to the community. On both sides, there were, like Charlie said, a lot of good comments, a lot of good information on both sides, and I appreciate all of you showing up. I think that says a lot about the community, that the community cares on both sides, and that's a good thing. But the community and the business have to live together. And so I would recommend to the community and to the attorneys that you all get together and have a community meeting. Every variance zoning issue case I've been involved with, that's what makes things better, and that's where you get some agreement, and that's where you can come together and try and work these differences out. You know, I've heard both sides. I took copious notes. You know, there's concerns on both sides. You know, the noise issues are concerning, so you all have to work together to solve it. You know, whatever that means, I don't have the answer, but I think the community together and the business need to have an answer. They need to work it out, and that's the way it should work. So I would recommend that y'all do that, and I would do that before you go to the BZA, because the BZA wants to see a concerted front. Right now, it's not concerted. There's a lot of disagreement. So if I were the attorneys and the community and the leaders in the community, I would get together. Any other comments?
Exactly what you're saying as well.
I more or less agree as well. I'm all about small businesses, entrepreneurship, and I understand that everyone has to make a living, and I totally get that. But again, the rule is the rule a little bit. Now I am in agreement, and I think we both agree on this, that you provide a great service. Nobody has argued that it's a bad service, that the pets aren't happy, that the employees aren't happy. You got employees that'll stand up here and vouch for you. Some companies don't have it. And that's kind of one motto or value for the company I work for, and it's on our sign, and it says reputation is everything. And you can have a great service and provide a great product, but if your reputation is crap, you're not going to make any money. So you got it. You've got a gold mine. And so I think having that conversation with everyone involved can help mend, in bad term, but mend those fences and make things just a little bit, each person be willing to give a little bit. I think y'all can really get there. I really, really do. And I want to encourage you to. So that's my...
I'll make this unanimous. I'm in agreement with the board. I don't see the reason to allow the variances. The business was there, it was running. They bought it. I don't think there's any reason to make the change.
Okay. Thanks, board. I appreciate that. So you have our record, and that's our recommendation, and we wish you luck. But I wish you more luck in trying to work things out with the community. Mm-hmm. I think that can happen, and I would urge you to do it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
board.
it.
Thank you for your time.
And thanks, everybody, for coming out and speaking on both sides. Greatly appreciate that. All right, we do have one more case. Scott Reese.
Made it through.
Yes. Scott's still here.
I know. I was going to think
Scott.
Did he leave?
Yeah.
He's asleep in the back.
I saw him somewhere. I think he was in that room.
In that room.
Yeah, I saw him.
Is Scott here? He was back in that back room.
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Man.
There he is.
All right. Our final case for the evening is, actually, I lost it. Anyone have that number they can read? I think
B20-20, 16662 Phillips Road.
Great.
You guys want to take a break at all?
No,
we get you out of here.
Get done.
This is what you get.
Did you bring some eggs?
Josh, it's all yours.
And after 9, we go into the short form.
There we go. So I'll try to make this as long as possible and as torturous as possible. So, Madam Chairman, members of the board, I am Scott Reese with Brumlow Reese & Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here tonight representing Dennis, Susan, and Greg Gilreath in their application to appeal the rejection of the Community Development Director's decision denying the acceptance of a building permit. So, Milton Ordinance 64-2426 3A states that no building or other permits will be issued for a period of 5 years after demolition of structures without approval of the Design Review Board, an ordinance that I did not know about. So, a synopsis of why we're here. The Gilreaths reside in California. Dennis, his family originally was from Georgia. They're very close to retirement age, within a year. They decided to relocate from California to Georgia, and they chose the city of Milton. They purchased 4.5 acres approximately on Phillips Road, on the very northeast corner of city of Milton, right on the Fulton-Cherokee line. There were 2 residents on the property. A realtor came, they drove in from California, saw the property, closed on it, went back to California. came back approximately 45 days later, found that the structures had been vandalized, severely looted, the pipes had been cut out, walls had been destroyed, windows broken, doors taken, and one structure had been completely removed. One of the metal garages you see for sale on the side of the road, that had been sawed off at the ground, hauled away. So while they were here, they called the police department and been in the same situation. The police doing, the best they could, but they could not camp out at the property. They would add it to their patrol list, try to do, but there was nothing that they could do. Contacted their insurance agent, who told them that they had a severe problem. They had what was called an attractive nuisance. So I have a cattle farm with a lake on it, and I know about an attractive nuisance. If someone goes on your property and is hurt, it's your responsibility, and you should have fenced or something to keep them away. So the insurance agent told them they needed to remove the structures as soon as possible due to liability concerns. They had to go back to California. They contacted a general contractor to remove the structures. This GC says he was not familiar with Milton ordinances. Most municipalities and counties do not require a design review board approval. You submit, or you tear down the structure, you don't go before a board. He removed the structures. The Gilruths were trying to manage the property from 2,000 miles away, and they were unaware of the ordinance, and they failed to perform the due diligence. There was never any intent to, shirk the rules, or they just didn't know what the rules were. So they, through a process of elimination, came down to me, went through, it's been a little bit of an arduous process to get to here. We're here now. They're contrite. They want to do the right thing. Their whole purpose was there were 2 residences there. They want to build 2 residences for them and their son. So we're here, and we're trying to go forward. My original thought when I came to it and read the ordinance was, this is an illegal taking. But then your very able city manager and I had a discussion, and I know this is hard to believe, he changed my mind somewhat. So I agree with the deterrence of the ordinance, but that's why we have variances, because everything doesn't always fit in the hole. Typically you're not going to deal with people that run in from 2,000 miles away, purchase a piece of property that has vacant houses, and life happens. But as Mr. Krokoff and I discussed, this is a kind of a rare occurrence for the city, and I really like the deterrence, because I don't want a developer to be able to come in, remove a house just for an economic benefit. That's what this is. So if I could, so this is the site plan up before you, the original survey showing the structures and the meets and bounds of the property. So we have drawn red X's through the structures that were removed. If I could have the pictures. So I've got post and pre. So part of the thing is I can...
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
I'm lost on something.
Okay.
So we have an ordinance that says if you tear a house down without a demo permit.
No, if you tear down it, the way it is worded is if you remove a structure without approval from the DRB, your property goes into lockdown for 5 years.
And so that's what's happened here.
Yes, that is correct.
And so what you're doing is looking for a variance to that regulation.
That is correct.
And so you're before us saying, we would like you to understand our hardship, understand what we've been through.
Yes.
And we would like you to decide whether we don't vote on this, just
right.
our
the
recommendation
BZA.
To allow you to get a variance so you can move forward and put your property back into a good use.
Yes.
And back into an economic place, which is not in
yes.
If I could
now, I have one other question. Okay. So if it's torn...
Wait a minute.
If I could just...
Can't see him.
I want to be clear. The city of Milton has something called a primary variance and a secondary variance. This is actually a secondary variance, which is effectively an appeal of a decision that was made. So it's not the variance in the normal sense that you might see before you. It's going to be an appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals to effectively overturn the decision of the Community Development Director to
so that's
apply.
But obviously, trying to bring this into a tighter, to see where we are, the staff member had to do what he had to do because it's a regulation. He doesn't have the authority to do anything but turn it down and put you where you are today.
Yes.
That's what he had to do. He had no other choice. So that's where he was.
Yes.
Unless I'm wrong. Either I'm right or wrong.
We knew that going ahead. This was
Stay with me here.
Okay.
So you're before us. They've torn it down. The regulation, if I'm using the right or wrong word, regulation kicked in. Everybody's done what they were supposed to do under the law, and now you're looking for a variance to his position. So the buildings are torn down. The pictures are the pictures. My first question, were any of these structures historical?
No.
They weren't of historical value?
No.
So there wasn't somebody that did something underhanded by tearing down a historic structure?
No.
Okay. So I'm with you now. Those are my questions. And your whole request is that we support, or we're either going to support or deny you going forward to BZA to override what our city official had to do under the law.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay. May I continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm a little disjointed as you can see with the post-demolition picture, now this was in the peak of summer, so we didn't get the grass growing as well. It's in better shape now. Could we go to the next? Same deal, shows that they cleaned up silt fence, tree fencing. They did everything they should have done except, and we're here for the except. Please continue on. Please continue. We should have Okay. So there were no pictures, so I had to archive Google. And so these are not the greatest pictures, but they were all I could come up with. So this is the northernmost residence and the metal garage that was completely removed. So these houses were approximately 1,250 square feet, constructed per record in approximately 1960. So northern house, if we could see, again, the northern house. The next picture, please. There is a picture of the southern house. It is almost identical. Once again, wood frame, 1960, 1,250 square foot house. No historical, no cultural, there's nothing that was special about the houses. I feel confident in stating that there's a picture of the other house, not super clear, that if the process had been done, that a demolition permit would have been approved by this board and gone through the proper channels. So that's where we're at. I understand, that's why I read the preamble, which I typically don't, that we were appealing the decision. But that's the only way per the city attorney and staff that we can get to the next step, which is to alleviate the lockdown for 5 years of the unintentional mistake that was made removing that. So no reason to belabor the point anymore. I would like to try to answer any questions if you have them. I hope you understand, if I failed to address it on the front end, my apologies. That was what I thought I was doing when I read the ordinance out and what we were appealing. So any questions, I will try to answer them.
When they made the rejection, did he hear this story as well? Was he aware of the... Yes,
and per the ordinance, his hands were tied.
Right, okay.
I mean, the ordinance is the ordinance. And until a board grants a waiver or a variance, he couldn't, it's not in his purview to ignore certain ordinances and accept certain ordinances.
Okay.
So, and that fully understood, everyone understood that on the front end. This is part of the process.
Okay.
I mean, skip to the end, it seems very straightforward. I don't see any issue with the variance or the appeal or the variance.
I agree with Lee.
I'm in favor of the variance.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, looking at those houses, we were going to improve that anyway. So, let's just go back and read.
I guess my other question is, like a variance, we always talk about setting the precedence. Does an appeal set any kind of precedence?
In this case, because they suffered a crime against them, an honest mistake. It wasn't a historic building that was removed. It's not a developer trying to put 17 homes on it.
Right,
I think it's just...
And we're not waging war against the ordinance.
Right.
We're,
just
this particular case, one time, we want to
You're actually
finite
replacing two houses with two houses.
Right. We're not increasing our densities or anything on there. We're replacing two older houses with hopefully two new
Scott,
houses.
it's your right to appeal that anyway, and that's what you're doing.
Okay.
Now it's our position to take a position and make it public record and send it on to BZA. And so, again, we're not making motions, but I think we've all said we're going to recommend to BZA that they grant you this variance, recognizing what I said a few minutes ago, that our city officials had their hands were tied, as you said.
Yes.
So I think it's great to help you out and help this owner out and move this property along from nothing on it to what it needs to be.
Yes. Okay.
So we are recommending, we support you in your quest for...
That is what I have been patiently waiting to hear. So thank you much for your time and effort, and I will see you again shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. All right. Somehow I feel like I've got a lot of paperwork, and I'm trying to find my... Oh, thank you. Okay, we're at no final reviews as far as I can tell, unless something came forward that I don't know of. And I guess there's some new business.
The first new business is it was certainly delightful to have so many VIPs with us. When I walked in, I went, something big is happening tonight. Look at all these powerful people. The city manager, Prague's here, everybody, 2 police officers. So this was
what did I do wrong?
a big night for us. Since I asked for the new business, I'll turn it over to everybody else for discussion. My goal is simple, and it's in writing to all of you, is this has been a great night. We all showed up. We had a great meeting. We had an officer here. We conducted ourselves professionally, and we did the people's business. I wasn't happy when we weren't having a big show up. I've said this before, there's 12 meetings. We know a year in advance when those meetings are going to be. I find it unfortunate if people can't show up for the board and do the people's business that we're appointed to do. I'm really excited tonight. I love Laura being chairman. She's here. And going forward, I'd just like to say if we're all duly appointed, the officers were duly elected, and that's all the new business I want is I just want us to show up. And we had 2 months where we're all calling. 1 month we didn't have a quorum. 1 month we didn't have an officer. That's just unacceptable in Milton, Georgia, for me. It may not be for you all, and I respect your opinions. And that's only this was on the board because if you're not going to show up, I think you should resign. If you're not going to carry out your duties, I think you should resign, or you should do them. That's the oath we took. We all took an oath right here to do that. So I'm happy if we all show up. Let's keep rolling just like we did tonight. It couldn't have gone better. And look at all the opinions we get. 4 is good, but legally, morally, all the reasons, there's 7 people on a board for 7 opinions. So the people get a fair hearing or fair result. I mean, this was tough tonight, but it's really cool that 6 of us and Jeff up in the sky up there, Jeff agreed too. And so, huh?
He's here.
Jeff, when did you come down from the sky?
It's just like that.
Wow. So I just think it's great, all the thoughts and ideas and the good business we do and the good works we get accomplished as a group with so many diverse opinions. And I'm really happy. That's all I wanted to see is us to show up and carry out the people's business unless the city tells us to go back into quarantine, and then we wouldn't have meetings. And so I'm happy with everything just like it is.
Well, I'll say a couple words. I mean, and, you know, I was not here for the last meeting for a reason. I am moving my father-in-law to Milton. After living his whole life for 50 some odd years in Oklahoma City, he is now living with us. He's 86 years old. So we had to get him out of his home to get here. So we have to drive due to COVID. He can't get on a plane. So that is why I was absent. But, you know, if the board thinks somebody else should take this position, I'm happy to step down. I've been on the board for many years, and I'm always happy to let somebody else step up if that's what the board wants. I will still be on the board because I was appointed by Joe Longoria until his term's over. I guess I'm still here. But, you know, I've enjoyed being on this board. It's a volunteer position. I wouldn't be here if I didn't enjoy doing work for the city. Bob and I've known Bob for a long time. Bob Buscemi, I've known Robin. We worked through a lot of crazy stuff in many years. And I've been involved with a lot of things. And, you know, I'm just happy that we've made it this far because in the early days, there was a lot of tough stuff. You know, I'm over in the Highway 9 area, and we fought a lot of battles with Fulton County for many, many years, and we're glad we're in a city now because things were quite contentious for many years. And many of us used to go down and speak our piece down in Fulton County for a long time, and we got really tired of doing it and not being listened to. So it's great to be in a city and to be able to have a design review board and a planning commission and have control over what we can do in this city. And the volunteers and the city staff have done a great job, and I've been happy to be a part of it. So if the board thinks somebody else should be chairman, I'm happy to move on and move over and let somebody else take over. I'm doing this because you asked me to. And hopefully I represent you well.
You know, I brought this up, and I know all these people want you to stay, and I do too. I would bring up one other problem, and I'm a guy who deals in problems. not so much emotion, but in real everyday issues. So we got to have a quorum. And Jeff is here, which, did he leave?
Yeah.
So my next question for the board is, Jeff is on record of he's not going to come. He's our vice chairman. Maybe the answer to this is to elect a new vice chairman. So if Laura has a problem, it's really then kind of unfair to her that she has to be here for every meeting. And our vice chair is clearly not going to come. Maybe we need to elect a new vice chair to back up our chairman, who we all love and want to be the chairman.
And to confirm, it's not sufficient for him to be there on Zoom.
Sir?
The vice chair, as an officer, has to be present physically.
I think to be vice, if Laura's not here, the officer has to be here. Is that not correct?
It is not a requirement to conduct a meeting. As we did at the last meeting, there's an appointment of a chairman for that particular meeting, pro tem for the meeting, which is a representative of the department director. Last time, I think I did it. But the first order
But Jeff couldn't be vice chair last time, so we had to elect a temporary chairman.
I think legally it's possible. As a practical matter, it doesn't work with someone who's on a delay trying to run the meeting is the issue.
And then also, Zoom doesn't count as a quorum. He can still vote and be active after we reach a quorum.
Correct. We need 4 representatives present in person.
How do you feel, Laura? Do you think you're going to be here for October, November, December?
Yes.
To worry about
I will be here.
vice chair?
Yeah. My father-in-law has moved here.
I was thinking if you're going to be here, then we
The hard part's been done.
going to be here, then we really don't have to worry about changing anything.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, Laura did a fantastic job tonight. I mean, it was such a well-run meeting. There's no reason to change, in my opinion, anything.
Yeah, and frankly, Jeff, I talk to Jeff frequently before meetings and that, and I mean, Jeff does add a lot of value because he's got a very strong background in the historical side of Milton, which I think is very important for us moving forward. So, I'd hate to see him not be the vice chairman because I do think he adds a different perspective. I think you've got to have some citizenry perspective. We can't all be, involved in the real estate game. Citizens get very nervous about that, and I'm not belittling folks who are in the developer trade and that, but there are optics there from a person that's a resident and who has lived through dealing with developers for a big chunk of my volunteer life. If you talk to people in Crooked Creek, in the area that I represent, and White Columns and that, there's some connotations they don't like. And so you've got to have a mix of people. And if you don't have that mix, I think then the public gets concerned. And we're not here to concern people. We're here to make sure that we make them feel that they're a part of the city and that they're comfortable. And I think we have to make sure we have good representation. And it has to be diverse. And I think that's what we have now. We've got historical, we have real estate, we have developer, we have architecture, we have construction, we have other citizens who represent other communities. To me, that's really important.
I don't think we were talking about Jeff getting off the board. It's just the officer role.
I don't really think there's a need to change.
Yeah, no.
I don't.
He reaches
bringing this
out.
up just kind of is
Yeah,
nonsense, really. I mean, he's on the board. If he can't vote, that's going to be that way. All we need to do is just reelect a chairman if the chairman isn't here. It's a pretty simple process, correct?
Mm-hmm. Like we did last time.
Well, you have the option of electing either or both or doing neither. It's
a simple statement. We address it at the first of the meeting. It's done. We move on. Is it that simple?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your statement.
If Laura's not here, and we want to elect, and Jeff is, I guess, via Zoom, and he can't kind of conduct the meeting in an appropriate manner because of delays and things. All we have to do is just make a quick motion to elect a new chair for the meeting. That's it.
That is correct.
That's all we have to do. No special hoorah about it.
Which is exactly what you did at the last meeting.
Right.
Just like last month, yes.
All right, let's move on. It's late. It's time to.
If you would, if I could just entertain a motion to proceed with, or to close the new business item without an election, if that's the intention.
I'll make a motion to close the discussion about new business.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Thank you.
Any old business?
We do not have any old business.
Okay, then we're adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. It was a long night.
It was long.
Good work.
The longest one I ever had.